Morning, folks. Welcome to Tournament Tuesday. We're doing bronze, best of 7 today. We're going to start with some packs as we get settled in. You're going to have to bear with me today. We're going to do something a little bit different. We're still doing everything that has been there before is still there. I added a little bit of something that should hopefully be interesting this morning. Probably information everybody already knows, but we're going to take a look at it anyway. I got like 20 packs on this team. We got other packs on the other teams. We're going to save them for the rest until the end. For now, we're just going to open these 20 packs and see how it goes. And good morning to all of you too. Brydev, thank you for knocking me out in Game 7 of the Gold quarterfinals, like 24-3. That was a happy screenshot. Stens, Rom3S, Mr. Devil Dog, Lowry, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with me today. It should be a fun stream, I think. I hope. As usual. Packs are off to a... Well, at least we got a historical silver. Not terribly useful on this team. This team needs a big hit so that we can open a whole bunch of packs with it. This is the Iron team. Just runs Iron tournaments and builds its main team through packs. Leo Keeley, rookie sensation. Red Sox. Team mission number 1. Just remember Amos Strunk exists. Not for me anymore. There's an Andy LaRoche. We're getting some pretty good silver hits today. No, I don't have enough perfect points for perfect packs. That's a lot of perfect points. You're very welcome, Slinky. Thanks in advance for stopping by. Oh, we got another silver. Perfect draft, best of 7, now has a 64 team tournament with a 10K first prize. Outstanding. I need to someday start working on perfect drafts. This was a little bit of a busy week for me. Here's our first gold. It's a Bruce Ruffin, Colorado Rockies. My daughter came home last week for band camp, and so we were had a lot of stuff going on with the house. It's been a week. Interesting to see how poorly you're running your bronze lineups. Probably 5 to 10 cash rate. You know, bronze is pretty competitive at this point. To the live DeGrom pull. No, not that kind of band camp. Bronze. So we won a couple bronzes yesterday. We got, I want to say total, we got about 60 or so packs between all the teams. There's a Build a Legend Chuck Nagy. That'll finish a collection for this team for our next stream. What do we got left? We got 2 packs left. The last one's going to be a gold pack, and then I'll show you the new stuff that I did. So I got the live updates into the chart, and we're going to take a look at them and see what kind of madness is going on. We didn't get hit too hard down here in bronze this month. Our gold pack will be Craig Kimbrell. Let's get out of here and get into a bronze tournament. That team is terrible. That team is awful. Run Iron. All right, let's get onto the bronze team. All right, they are in a tournament right now. Let's throw them in another one, and then we'll get your stats up for you. I know you're not here to see my team play tournaments. Your Iron Cap from last week improved a lot. Outstanding, awesome. I'm glad to hear that. That's what I try to do for you guys, is to help you guys out. But all right, so what are we looking at here? I'm gonna zoom in on this for you. Quite a bit, actually. I don't know if you can see this. So these are the starting pitchers, the guys listed as starting pitchers that we lost from bronze to silver. These are not the guys who went down to iron. These are just the ones that went to silver. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't feel like we got hit too hard in starting pitchers. Keuchel, Wainwright, Turnbull, they all have pretty good... Well, let's see. So Wainwright's probably the one that might hurt. DeSclafani pitched okay from what I saw, but he's up to silver, 74. Wainwright up to a 70. Those are the starting pitchers that we lost this week, and I don't think we got hit too terribly hard. Turnbull's a little bit of a loss. Yeah, the 71 stuff with the 55 control and the 60 movement for Turnbull was a little bit of a hurt. And I can see some people probably were running Dace Clefini and some people were probably running Wainwright. Let's do this and see if any of them were getting used at all anyway. So we lost like 244 innings from Wainwright, and Turnbull was the big one. Yeah, Turnbull with 1,100 innings all time was really the big one that we lost. What about so that's what we're gonna look at next, Bailey. Slow down, slow your roll. We're gonna get to those. Let's see, relief pitching, right? We want to see what kind of relief pitchers. Relief pitchers and closers. This is where there were a lot. So it looks like a lot, right? On its face. Brent Suter is probably the biggest one here. Let me actually do that here too, so that we're tracking on what we're actually losing. There we go. So Suter went up. I actually didn't have any data on Suter. Apparently, he probably was under starting pitchers or something. But Suter has gone back to silver. Doesn't look like he was getting used too much anyway, on the relief pitching side. I'm gonna hide some of this. Let's hide this. Let's hide. That should be good. Now we can at least see who was pitching. So John Curtis, we had 564 innings on John Curtis and a couple innings on Ross Detweiler. Those two guys went up. I don't think either one. Curtis, I don't think was getting used all that much, although the 88 stuff with 67 control is pretty solid. So that's probably the biggest relief pitching loss that we saw. Detweiler was a little bit, and then Suter didn't really get used at all over the last month. So the stats that we're looking at here are over basically the last month. I deleted anything before last month, and I'm not seeing too many pitchers that were a huge loss. Thankfully, as we go to hitters, let's move on to the hitters. Let's see. So we really did not lose a ton. The biggest losses here, I think, are you had dropped Curtis a week before, so you figured he was going up. Yeah, Curtis was a guy that was getting used a little bit. Ryan Thompson was a loss for reality. Cisnero went from iron to bronze to silver. Suter was run as a starting pitcher. Gotcha. Yuli is gone. Yuli has moved up to silver. And the other one who we got here, so I had this all set for, whoops, I broke it. I broke the spreadsheet. Stop. Oh no, I broke it. Undo. 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 Oh, I don't know what I did. Okay, whatever. We're going to leave it. So really, it was Gurriel, and then Schwarber's power, I think, was a little bit of a loss, but his avoid Ks was a little bit of... it was a little bit low. So, I mean, he has the 87 power, which was one of the highest ratings in the entire set of bronze, but the avoid Ks didn't help out too much with that. The eye was okay. I am not surprised to see Schwarber go up to silver. He's kind of mashing right now. But that's it. So it was really Gurriel was the guy we lost, and then we didn't lose any catchers, any important catchers anyway. We lost Kirk, Stevenson, Kavan Biggio, Ramon Urias, and again, these are just guys that went up to silver. So when we clear this, let's clear this. Let's just clear all these filters and start fresh. And we're gonna go here. Come on, Excel. We're going to go here, and we're going to get rid of that. And we're going to talk about players who came down from silver. We want to talk about guys who came up from, and we're going to talk about new cards as well. Let's do this. New. So there's a lot of new cards that aren't getting played yet. That's why I do not have data on them. So if they haven't appeared in a tournament that I have downloaded data for over the last day, then they're not going to appear with bats. So we're going to have to look into them kind of individually just to see if there's anybody worth looking at. So let's start with the starting pitchers here, shall we? Who's new? Patrick Corbin came down from a 70 to a 69, as did Marco Gonzalez. Do either of them look interesting? Corbin could be 72 stuff, 63 control. Gonzalez looks to be interesting on his face as well. I got to fix this again. Recent. See if any of them are getting used. Does not look like any of them are getting used just yet. All right. We're a mess. This is my first time doing this, so you're just gonna just bear with me a little bit. I'm also not feeling great today. Kyle Freeland drops 57 stuff, 61 control. We got Nick Pivetta down here as well. Martin Perez, who I don't have data on just yet. Data B, data M. Yeah, I don't have anything on Perez, Singer, or Keller right now. So we'll take a look at those guys. And then some new guys. We got Matt Manning showing up finally. Corey Oswalt, Zach Godley, Jackson Kovar, Jared Eichhoff, Zach Thompson, Bailey Falter. John Duplantier is a guy I'm interested in looking at the card for, as is Corey Abbott, as is Jelfrey Rodriguez. And we'll see what we get on those guys. Sadly, I don't have ratings here, so we're going to have to look at them kind of individually. So let's go ahead and just kind of do that. We'll see if we can't find anything on the auction house. Let's hop into one of these tournaments here and see what we can find out. Is that, yeah, that's the Perez from the Red Sox. You would avoid him like the plague. At least don't start him until like the third inning. So let's go auction house, because I don't have any of these cards yet. And we've got, let's see, Matt Manning. Let's see, 200 points. What do we got? We got 64 stuff, 55 movement, 59 control with 3 pretty okay pitches for Manning. 55 stamina is not awful. I don't think he's going to be a mainstay in any rotations based off of this. I think the control's just a little bit low for him to be terribly useful. Let's see, Martin Perez is one that we're already getting asked about, so let's see if we can't find him. We do have him. He actually moved up. Oh, because he went up to a silver and then dropped back down. So this is from their original card rating. So 60, 57, 51. I don't like that movement out of a starting pitcher. Extreme ground ball, and in bronze is just no defense here. The stamina is good if you need somebody to eat innings for you. But other than that, I don't see Perez being a guy who gets used much. Wyatt Mills is a guy we're looking for. 84 stuff, 55 movement, 54 control. Very right-handed heavy here. He is a relief pitcher, so we haven't seen him just yet. These were just starting pitchers. But he does look like a pretty solid option for a right-handed specialist, especially. Good sinker, good slider. Another ground ball pitcher here. No Yuli, bring on Yachty. Yeah. You went back to a platoon at first, which is a thing too. And yeah, so there we go. Let's see. Who else do we want to look at? Corey Oswalt? Yeah, that 60 control versus righties for him is pretty solid. Oswalt. See, now this is a card, well, this is a card that might struggle against, well, that will struggle against power heavy lineups. So it's up to you on if you want to put it in there. I don't think it looks terrible, but it's going to let up some home runs. But the stuff control combination doesn't look terrible. But I think he's probably going to be in the bottom third of home runs, allowing home runs among starting pitchers. But decent stamina, a 69. But I really think that movement is just a little bit too low. I want to look up John Duplantier. Mostly because he's a guy I've been interested in for a couple years. I've been following him in my fantasy league. Do not like. Pretty heavy splits versus righties, and the control's just a little bit too low. He's got 5 pretty solid pitches, but the stamina is low and the control is low, which is pretty concerning to me for Duplantier. Yeah, for the other guy, yeah, pitch around all the way on what was it? It was Oswalt, right? I don't know. I don't think this card's usable as a starter here in bronze. I could see it being usable as potentially a specialist against right-handed batters for Duplantier, even at the level. Who else do we want to look at from this list? Is there anybody else in this list that you guys are really interested in? Pavetta with an 81, 47, 49. Again, I don't have. We'll see if they got anything. I might have messed up some formulas here on the. Oh, you know what it is? If they don't have at least 200 innings, then they wouldn't show up there. Is why, because of what it's pulling from. So those are your starting pitchers. Let's check the relief pitchers and see who came down from relief pitchers. Relief pitchers. New cards. Daniel Zamora, John Brabia, and Spencer Patton are getting used so far. Very high stuff. Brabia looks interesting. 86 stuff, 44 movement, 71 control. We're going to check him out. A couple guys who came down from silver. Wyatt Mills came down from silver. I don't have data on him yet, so we'll take a look at it. I think we just looked at him, actually. And then a bunch of guys who I also don't have data on yet. James Sherfy, Dominic Leone, Shane Green, Hobie Milner, Austin Davis, and Blake Parker. Melanson's down from silver from a 75 to a 68. He's a 63, 66 movement, 62 control. That looks like a card that could pitch pretty well down here in bronze, potentially with solid defense as well. We've got Craig Stammen, 75 stuff, 87 control, and a 44 movement for Stammen. Melanson looks good. Stammen doesn't look unusable. I really want to take a look at this John Brabia card. Antoine, I don't love the 75, 59, 49, so these are the columns we're looking at, stuff, movement, control right now. There's not space on here for me to split it out, and this is all just, I wasn't trying to add 6 more spreadsheets to the table, so that's why it's kind of a mess. I don't like the Antone. Not in love with the Spores. I know he's been used before down here in bronze. It looks like he went up to silver and then dropped 12 more points back down to bronze. I don't love the 50-46. The movement and control combination is a little concerning to me. Yusmiro Petit. He kind of is what he is. I'm on the wrong line. Petit, kind of is what he is. He's not going to strike anybody out, but he's got pretty good movement and very, very good control for the format. So if you're running a good defensive team, then he's a guy who can be pretty good for you. Let's see. Sergio Romo, nice versus righty specialist. Yeah. Is he here? I don't think he was already in bronze, I think, if I'm not mistaken. We haven't gotten to. All right. Nameless poet. Yeah, we haven't gotten to steals yet. We haven't done anything with steals yet. Somebody bought the 89-point Brabia before you did. Yeah, I think the Brabia looks like it's going to be a pretty nice card. 86 stuff, 71 control, with okay movement here in this level. Let's see. Is he gone now? There was only the one. No, there's a bunch of them. So they're just a little bit expensive right now. I like the looks of this card. A little bit of a righty specialist. 3 pretty good pitches though. But I don't think he's unusable versus lefties. He's an extreme fly ball, which is helpful. Might get hit pretty hard against lefties. Those left-handed batters. But otherwise, I think this Brabia card looks kind of okay. Yeah, the movement's a little bit low. I will absolutely agree. It's a little bit low, but it's bronze. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm in love with it, but I think it could be usable. Catchers. Let's see what catchers came down from silver. Well, Yachty is here. Yachty is getting used. 3,200 plate appearances over the last night. We'll see where he pops up. We know that he's a very good defensive catcher. We know that he's pretty okay offensively too. Austin Barnes also dropped down, getting a little bit of use. Another pretty good defensive catcher with a little bit of power, decent eye, some gap power. Pretty similar. I think Yachty is probably a better option than Barnes overall, but we'll probably see both of them on the list this morning. Yerman Mercedes dropped from silver to bronze. Has not gotten used in the last day or so. I'm not super surprised. People really like their defense at catcher down here in bronze. We'll take a look at that Mercedes card and see how unusable he is. Yerman Mercedes, not that one. Let's see. The defense unusable at catcher in this level. 38 catcher ability, you just can't use it. And I don't think the bat is good enough to be a designated hitter. Pretty serious drop off for Mercedes in May and early June. So, or I should say in June, because it's like what this is the July update now, right? And so Yachty and Barnes, pretty solid drops down to from silver to bronze for those guys. We also got a Connor Wong, Riley Adams, and Ryan Lavarnway. I got to be honest with you, seeing a Lavarnway card drop in, I'm pretty excited. As a longtime Red Sox fan, this is a guy who we once thought was going to be awesome. Never really panned out. Not really usable in bronze, I don't think. Unfortunately, maybe a hitter versus lefties. Super big splits, bad catcher defense. I don't love it. Let's see if there's any Connor Wongs up, shall we? Connor Wong. Again, the 47 catcher ability is a little bit low. A little bit of power here, though. Some interesting top half versus lefties, but I still don't think you're going to see this card get used too much as a catcher here at this level. It is a 65 rated card. It does have second base and third base on it as well. So it's a 32 and a 29, so I don't know if it's really usable as a utility card. I think there's probably better options out there. It is kind of a well-rounded card. I don't think nothing really stands out as being outstanding about it, but it's got good speed, decent base running, not quite Nameless Poet level base running. Is he 4'11"? He is not a big guy. He made his debut last week. He is not tall. And you saw him in AAA a couple weeks ago. Nice. Yeah, he made his debut. Got his first hit. What was it? Saturday or Friday? He got his first hit. Maybe earlier in the week, but looks good behind the plate. I wouldn't be surprised if he keeps playing the way he has. I wouldn't be too surprised to see him be a silver next year. That Mookie trade is paying off in spades. Jeter Downs is crushing in AAA right now too. As well. You believe Connor's like 180 pounds? Yeah, he is not. He is not a large person. Those are your catchers. Let's see. The other one was Riley Adams. We did not look at Riley Adams, so let's see if we can find one of him and see if he looks usable at all. Catcher for the Toronto Blue Jays. 46 catcher ability. I don't think so. I don't think he's usable as a catcher. He's another 65 rated card. The overall, not huge splits. It's 3 points in basically every category. Not getting used right now. I don't expect to see him get used too much as we go forward. Moving on to, let's see, first baseman. Give it a minute to catch up. Goldschmidt and Rizzo come down from silver, as does Rhys Hoskins, as does Ji-Man Choi. Right now, Hoskins has 30 plate appearances, so we're not going to see him. Rizzo has 625. And he splits towards righties, so keep that in mind. I added Rizzo to my team yesterday since, I lost Yuli. Goldschmidt, 68 power, 42 avoid Ks. I'm a pretty big fan of this Rizzo card. We're going to have to see... we're gonna have to take a look and see what the stats look like, but I think we may see him on the list. I haven't gone through it. I try to get as much data on him as I can. I might be the only person that's running him out there right now. 625 plate appearances for him. I like the 72 power with the 60 avoid K with the 66 I. Is pretty solid kind of stuff with solid-ish defense. No, we're gonna do data today, Nameless Poet. We're gonna get to it. But just bear with me. 72 I with 67 power for Ji-Man Choi is something that could work as well. 64 defense. Both of them play okay defense. And then obviously you got Goldschmidt, who's probably going to split versus lefties if I had to guess. Will he split versus lefties enough to take over for the other lefty split? Let's see if we can find a Bobby Bradley, because I don't have data on this Bobby Bradley that just showed up this month. And do we think he's usable? 25 avoid Ks versus righties, not great. Defensively, not great. 82 power versus right-handed pitching, though, is pretty okay. That avoid Ks makes this card all but unusable to me, though. As a fly ball hitter, don't love it. Let's see if I can show you the Rizzo. See if there's any here. So here's Rizzo. Pretty good first base defensive rating with a 52 error rating. Kind of solid-ish numbers. The contact rating's a little bit low, but decent power. I don't know what we're going to see from him out of stats today. We'll take a look at it here in a little bit. So there's the Rizzo. Little bit of a right-handed split, which works out well because I decided I was going to try to run Jose Martinez against left-handed pitching still. And so it is what it is. We got won some packs, not a ton. I don't know what the data is showing on Rizzo yet. We'll find out when we get to the first baseman. You feel like the game is sleeping on Rizzo's avoid K? Potentially. That is possibly a thing. My wife just said. Give me 1 second while we switch to second baseman. We didn't have any new second baseman. Are you kidding me? No new second baseman from silver to bronze. Third baseman? Down. Will Myers, Eugenio Suarez, and Kyle Seager all come down. I don't have anything on Suarez yet, so we'll take a look at him. 67 power, 71 defense, 46 avoid Ks with 56 I is a little bit of a low combination for me for him. The 56 and 46. Sorry, wife sent me ours is a bird profile with bad avoid Ks. Yeah, bad avoid K is a little bit concerning. Will Myers, pretty similar, 54 contact, 63 gap, 74 power, a little bit more power. Defensively, bad. Looks like maybe a designated hitter type card. Let's take a look at these three guys. Let's see if we can find that Eugenio. Or a Eugenio. Oh yeah, that avoid Ks is pretty bad. That power versus lefties is not terrible with the 73 I. I think he'd hit some home runs versus lefties, and his defense is not awful at third base. I don't know that I'd put this card in my lineup, but I don't think it's unusable. Yeah, the avoid Ks is super low, but if you can platoon him against lefties, you're going to get some power out of him. He's going to have a super low batting average, pretty low on base percentage, but if you're looking for like a number 5 type masher hitter who can play a little bit of defense at third base, I don't think it's an unusable card. You just got to know what you're getting yourself into with it. Will Myers. See what he looks like. Opposite splits, so 78 splits. Avoid Ks is pretty similar. A little bit more batting average, ball in play, and gap power for him. A little bit more speed. Plays some first base, a little bit of right field. A little bit not as good defensively as Suarez at third base. Not even close to as good. This card gets listed as a right fielder. It's probably a silver card, though. That's not a terrible batting profile to me. Again, the avoid Ks is pretty low. Especially right now where it's a lot of stuff, movement, high stuff kind of pitchers. So those are your third basemen. Let's do the outfielders all at once. We got left field, right field, center field. Did we really not have any second basemen come down? We're going to have to check that. Mitch Haniger comes down from silver to bronze. Not getting used yet. AJ Pollock getting some use. 84 plate appearances. Dylan Carlson getting some use as well. 48 plate appearances. The big one here, Verdugo. We're going to take a look at this Alex Verdugo card. I really think he's interesting. We're going to check out Haniger too. Gilberto Celestino and Matt Vierling are our other new cards that just popped up. Again, I'm not really looking at the iron cards that came up to bronze. Let's go ahead and check out this Verdugo who came down from silver. Oh, there's none available. There we go. We'll just take a look at the full card then. Ratings for Verdugo, solid across the board. It's not going to be a ton of power. He's going to hit a little bit better versus right-handed pitching, so probably enough of a split that you want to platoon him. I'm a little surprised about this. These splits here. he hits pretty good against left-handed pitching. Plays all 3 outfield positions and does it pretty well. I think this is a pretty solid bronze card right now. He's the bronze right fielder for the next month. I can absolutely see that. An 83 arm, a 72 right field rating, 56 left field rating. The range is good. The error is good. He got an infield arm too if you want to throw him at third base. I doubt it, but and the bat looks pretty good. The running speed's a little bit low, but he's a good base runner, can sack bunt a little bit. I think this is a pretty solid looking card here in bronze. We'll see where he shows up on the list. Let's check out Mitch Haniger and see if we can't find one of him. Here's a Mitch Haniger. Doesn't look like he's playing. 72 home run power for Haniger. Splits versus righties. Decent outfield range, not quite. I mean, he's power with less defense, less speed. Well, actually, his speed's about the same profile as Verdugo. So more power, more strikeouts for Haniger, and a little bit less defense in right field. I think Verdugo's probably the way to go over Haniger based off of these guys. Whit Merrifield didn't show up on the list. Plus, he's a second baseman that dropped. Let me fix filters real quick and see if... Let's go here. All right, let's go current level. Bronze. Whit Merrifield isn't there. What's he listed as? Been using Whit in right field for a while. Yeah, I don't think Merrifield dropped. Yeah, there he is, right there. He was already bronze, so that's why he wasn't on that list. Yeah, Whit was already a bronze. He dropped last month. And then yeah, so those are your live updates for the month. Hopefully next week I'll be a little bit more good at it than I was this week. So do we want to get into the stats now? Yeah, he's right here. Got 4,000 plate appearances. Let's go ahead and get into the stats. So those are your new guys. So really, it looks like going out, it was really Yuli. We lost Yuli going out, and that was about it. Maybe a couple pitchers that left. Coming in, we had a couple interesting options come in Verdugo. We had Suarez. We had a couple guys with a little bit of power. You got the first baseman and Rizzo. So we'll see if any of them pop up on the list. And can't see the bottom. What's going on here? Did it get bigger? I don't know if my thing got bigger or what. Anyhow, so here we go. Right now we're sitting at 53% right-handed batters, 25% left-handed, 20% split switch. Over the last day, so all of the recent stuff is since yesterday. 64% right-handed starting pitching, 81% relief pitching, right-handed pitching. It is very, very right-handed heavy. League, all the averages here, 263, 326. I need to adjust these because these are all time still. I need to adjust them to be off of the current stuff. So, yeah. Unfortunately, that's where that is. But 263 average, 326 on base percentage, 375 slugging, 701 OPS, 312 weighted on base average. Your catchers for bronze since yesterday. You agree with Poet, agreeing with Lowry. Where's Lowry? Yeah, no problem, guys. The biggest issue with that was trying to get all of the player IDs so that they showed up. So Austin Barnes shows up at number 10. We had 17 catchers qualify. That's how I got in a lot of tournaments, guys. 17 catchers qualified with 600 plate appearances overnight, which is just it's a lot. So after we finish this, I'm taking a day off, and then I'll start hitting iron pretty hard for next week, and we'll see how that goes. Barnes comes in at number 10, so he's okay defensively. He's still grading out just 8th, so right there at the kind of the top half of the middle of the pack. The arm's a little bit low. The catcher ability is pretty good at 80, and the catcher rating is 77. Offensively, he's kind of exactly what we've come to expect from Austin Barnes up in silver. Just not a lot going on offensively for him. A 207 average, 309 on base percentage, which is 5th among catchers, so you're going to get on base a little bit, and he is a good base runner, even if he's not terribly fast. How many tournaments did I do? I want to say I got into... I want to say it was 35 or something between all of the teams. It was it was a day. It was I want to say it was something close to 35. And then I got sick last night, so it would have been more, but I had a little bit of a rough night. We haven't done anything yet. We just hit catchers. So all we did so far, Fire Red, was we looked at the guys who came down from silver to bronze and the guys that we lost from bronze to silver, which wasn't nearly as much as I expected. So I've got that sheet ready to go for like silver and iron and everything too, guys. So it'll be pretty easy for next week. And so Barnes, decent on base percentage, can run just a little bit, is a decent base runner. So it's not a totally empty on base percentage, but again, like 4 steals per 600 is just not that much. Everything else is pretty poor. 16th in slugging, 11th in OPS, 11th in weighted on base average, and just 10th in WAR per 600 plate appearances for Barnes over his 1,800 plate appearances yesterday. Puts him firmly at 10th. I think the catcher ability is okay, but there's better options out there than him defensively as well. Number 9 is Yan Gomes, who right now, over the last month, since the beginning of June, is your 7th most used catcher and 7th most used over the last 24 hours. Grades out 9th defensively here, 10th offensively, so kind of like a reverse Austin Barnes. Low on base percentage, high power. So he's got 61 power versus righty, 64 versus left. Not quite enough to really set him apart. Defensively, he's 9th with a 75 arm, 61 ability, 75 catcher rating. 3rd among catchers in home runs. So he's a little bit of power and a decent-ish catcher. The catcher, I know catcher ability. We really like catcher ability here in bronze, and his is just a little bit low compared to some of the higher end catchers. But he provides a little bit of offense with a little bit of defense. It's a solid combination for Yan Gomes, and I'm not terribly surprised to see him getting used quite a bit. But again, like Barnes, I think that there's just guys out there who do what he does a little bit better. Also a terrible base runner, so Nameless Poet is not going to like Yan Gomes. Ali Sanchez comes in at 8th, entirely because of his defense. He is grading out as the best defensive catcher here in bronze, all the way from iron up to bronze. However, offensively, he's pretty bad. Not the worst offensive catcher out there, if we're being totally honest, but 11th in batting average, 12th in on-base percentage, 14th in OPS and weighted on-base average. So there were 4 of them yesterday. I've got my normal one is the Angered Unicorns, is the ones who normally run bronze. But yesterday it was all 4 teams. You had the Decimals 2, and the Bruins were all running bronze yesterday. And I did make sure not to overlap. So it was... There was a lot of time at the computer yesterday. Not a lot of power here for Sanchez. Again, we know what we're getting with Ali Sanchez. It's defense, defense, defense. And I think there's guys here at bronze that compare with him defensively. Obviously, in iron, he's far and away the best defensive catcher. But here in bronze, I think there's guys, Yachty, that compare with him defensively that are going to give you just a little bit more offense than Ali's going to give you. So he comes in at number 8. Yeah, slightly better batting average than Barnes. Significantly better batting average than Barnes for Ali Sanchez. Number 7 is Ed Mcfarland, who's going to be your 4th best offensive catcher, but pretty spectacularly bad defensively. He is definitely on that bottom tier of bronze defensive catchers. So if you're running an all offense team, I think you might be able to get away with Mcfarlane, but keep in mind that the catcher defense is going to kind of suffer greatly between Mcfarlane and some of the other guys. 64 speed with a 73 steal. He's 2nd in net steals per 600, but 6th in stolen base percentage, 3rd in average, 4th in on-base percentage. Doesn't hit too many home runs. It's a lot of singles and a lot of doubles for him. A 674 OPS, a 303 weighted on-base average is good for number 4 among catchers, and 71.77 runs created per 600. He's a very offensive-minded catcher, but again, like a 3rd bottom tier defensively for Ed Mcfarlane. Mathis is better in iron. I keep forgetting that Mathis appeared and is better than Ali Sanchez down there. You liked Ed quite a bit, but you'd never run him. I have a hard time putting this one in my lineup. The nice thing about him is that you can play him every day. He doesn't have huge splits. Even with the, if you're willing to go with mediocre defense at catcher, you can kind of play him every day and then pick one of those guys that plays catcher in multiple other positions and make some really interesting platoons in other positions. Whereas I know a lot of us are like a straight platoon at catcher with a versus lefties, a versus righties guys who can play defense. But if you run Mcfarland every day and use one of those weird catcher, third base, second base kind of defensive players, then you can get good platoons in like right field, first base, at other positions that you may be able to coax a little bit more offense out of. But again, the defense is going to suffer a little bit at catcher. What do you think about sliding in? And Charlie Dexter is exactly the guy I'm thinking about when you talk about those interesting utility options and interesting platoons. So I think Dexter is not bad as a backup catcher. You carry 3 catchers if they have multi-positionality. That as well. Yeah, again, the defense is whatever. Dexter's an interesting catcher option too. I have been running Ruiz Evans kind of platoon. And I think I'm going to start rebuilding this team kind of from the ground up this week, though, at some point. Not today, but Thomas Nido drops from a 68 to a 67 and comes in at number 6. A little bit of defense here, definitely a second-tier defensive catcher, somehow putting up pretty solid offensive numbers. They did tone down fatigue slightly. I haven't run any scientific numbers on how much. You use Evans and Dexter, enough bat, enough D, and flexibility. Yeah, I like that. The only person using Cam Gallagher. Gallagher is an interesting option. He's not going to be on the list, I don't think. He's not even in this tournament. So I don't think anybody is using him right now. Here he is right here. 74 ability, 73 catcher rating, 60 catcher arm, which isn't awful. The problem with him is he's got pretty heavy splits versus lefties, and in a format where it's like 80% right-handed pitching, I think he's gonna struggle quite a bit against righties. But if you want to run him as like a platoon against lefties, I don't think Gallagher's an unusable card at all either. Nido comes in at 6 somehow. I don't really know how, and I don't think he keeps it up. It's a pretty small 627 plate appearance sample size for him. And you can even see, actually, offensively, he's a little bit worse this week. So 220 average, 278 on base percentage. So both of those numbers came down last night. Slugging percentage at 369, 18 home runs per 600. So he's hitting for a lot of power, 6th in runs created, but with decent enough defense. I don't think Nido is necessarily an unusable card either. He is slow. He might have been you. He's again, second-tier defensive catcher. The catcher ability at 72 is a little bit low. The arm at 70 is kind of okay. And then the defensive rating of 79 at catcher will keep him from having passed balls. So that'll help you out. And, sack bunts and stuff like that, he'll field them a little bit better. Power hitting catcher with decent defense and not very big splits. Another guy that if you're going to use him and if you're going to live with what he has, you can kind of play him every day and have interesting platoons and utility options in other places. So I think he's usable. I don't know that he's a guy that I'm terribly interested in using, but I don't think it's a terrible choice either. Number 5 is our most used catcher right now, Keibert Ruiz, who's grading out 5th offensively now, but 11th defensively. And some of this is probably me, unfortunately, kind of killing that plate appearances. And he's okay. Probably going to move on from him very soon just because the defense is definitely second tier. Maybe even like top end of the third tier of defensive catchers. The arm at 59, the catcher ability at 68, and the defense at 68 is just a little bit low. Offensively, he's pretty okay. Mid-teens in home runs, solid slugging percentage, decent batting average at 253. On base percentage at 295 is a little bit sad. Doesn't really strike out. Good OPS at 678. 64 runs created per 600 plate appearances for Keibert Ruiz. He comes in at number 5. I really do think I'm going to think about moving on from him soon, though. Probably for the guy further up the list. Number 4 is Jonathan Lew Croy, who's grading out 2nd offensively, but 14th defensively. Who's a switch hitter? Keibert? Yeah, Keibert's a switch hitter, which is nice. Even though he's a switch hitter, though, he's got some pretty heavy splits. He kind of has to be platoon versus right-handed pitching, and he has been a part of a platoon with Evans for me basically since the beginning of June, and I think that we're gonna, like I said, I think I'm probably gonna rebuild this team from the ground up over the next day or two. So I think he's an interesting option versus righties. But I think there's probably better options out there too. Number 4 is Lew Croy, who hits versus lefties and mashes versus lefties. He's just bad defensively. His bat is borderline good enough versus the 6 left-handed pitchers in the format that he may be useful as a designated hitter, perhaps a very slow designated hitter who will hit singles and doubles. I really think that you need more power or more something out of your designated hitter. He's just not going to create runs on his own. But number 1 in batting average, number 2 in on-base percentage among guys who play at catcher. I just think the defense makes him almost unplayable at catcher. It is a smallish sample size. I really think he's better suited as a designated hitter than as a catcher. And again, I think that his skill set is so limited to really singles and walks, and that the speed doesn't make that better. So I don't love him being this high. He continues to be this high. Yeah, the WOB is way too low. A 309 weighted on base average is a little bit too low to designated hitter. I agree. Number 3 is Yachty. Number 3 defensively. Number 8 offensively as he comes back down into bronze. From silver to bronze. Welcome back, Yachty. 6th in batting average at 247. A 288 on base percentage is very sad. But gives you just a little bit of power right there in the middle of the pack. Smart base runner. He's not going to get thrown out if you decide to have him steal. But again, with the 4 speed, don't expect anything more than this. And then let's see, decent base runner as well. Defensively, again, he's right there, kind of behind Sanchez and behind one other guy who was number 2. I don't remember. At catcher, hits versus righties. Hits versus lefties, the splits are there a little bit. You got 11 points of power versus lefties, but you get 6 points of gap and a couple points of avoid K versus righties. You can hit versus lefties and righties. If I'm going to play him, I'm probably going to platoon him versus lefties, unfortunately, which means Al Evans is probably going to be gone if we decide to go with Yachty. But we'll see what we get out of him. 2.66 WAR for him, 1 steal per 60,000 plate appearances. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, the 4 speed is bad. Can't sack bunt, can't bunt for a hit. He's there for his defense, and the fact that he provides any offense is just a bonus for Yachty. He's at number 3. Number 2 is Charlie Dexter, a guy that we've talked about just a little bit already on stream. He is number 1 offensively. He is 17th out of 17 defensively. Interesting option, again, as a backup kind of utility catcher, right fielder, shortstop, center fielder. This card's so much fun because it can help you do whatever you want with your team, right? Because you can be like, well, I want a straight platoon in left field instead of catcher. So we can run Dexter out there as our backup and our backup right fielder. He's interesting. Very good speed, power to go along with it. Mid-teens and home runs per 600. 334 on base percentage. He does not show up on this list because he gets left as an outfielder most of the time. You can ignore his catcher ERA. He does not have a .93 catcher ERA. Because innings played. So Charlie Dexter comes in at number 2. Number 1. I don't know what this is going to be. Al Evans comes in at number 1. Interesting. Grades out 13th defensively, so you can see my team defensively at catcher was lacking between who are we using? Our other guy and Al Evans. Ruiz and Evans. So no defense for me at catcher. Evans hits versus lefties. He can hit versus righties as well, but he splits a little bit versus lefties, so that's why I use him basically in a strict platoon. Definitely second, bottom half of the second tier, top half of the third tier defensively in catchers here in bronze. Number 2 in average, number 1 in on-base percentage, second in OPS, second in weighted on-base average, number 1 in WAR, and number 4 in runs created for Al Evans at catcher. 3rd offensively, 13th defensively. Bob Barton in shambles, who can back up like 3 positions with a 337. Yeah, he's I think he's great. I think Dexter is kind of awesome. You split Evans and Jacob Stallings. Stallings must be buried. He's been brutal for you. Let's see if we can find him. 11 was Stallings, came in at 11. He's middle of the pack kind of in everything, which really I think reduces his value. He's dropped from a 69 to a 68. Offensively, 228 average, 324 slugging, just nothing out of him. 12th was Jose Trevino, who's number 4 defensively, but pretty bad offensively for a 60 rated card. Down from 63 to 60. This is a card that might be interesting if he happens to drop to iron next month. We shall see. 13 is Rhys Maguire, grading out 7th defensively, 12th offensively for Maguire. Just 52 runs created per 600 is pretty bad, even at the catcher position. 14 is Asta Dio, who has dropped from a 65 to a 64. Number 1 in slugging percentage, and number 4 in batting average. 7th offensively, bad defensively. But plays a whole bunch of different positions too. So this is a card I've toyed with playing just a little bit. I just haven't convinced myself to do it yet. He's like if Charlie Dexter did nothing but hit singles and not walk. So I think there's better options. 15 is Martin Maldonado. 16 is Jorge Alfaro, grading out 5th defensively, but the absolute worst offensive catcher at the level. And number 17 is Sam Huff, who's grading out 12th defensively and 16th offensively. I pulled a bunch of his rookie cards. Oh, guys, I got a really good birthday present last week. Speaking of baseball cards, so it was my birthday at some point last week, and so my wife says, let's go to the card shop and get you some cards. I said, okay, whatever. So we go down and I got a hobby box of Topps and a couple blasters of Bowman that I was like, I want some Bowman stuff. I was like, I haven't picked up some Bowman. I haven't even been able to find it. Bowman is so hard to find and it's super expensive and I paid too much for it. But I open it, and in one pack, I got a numbered to 199, some prospect. I don't know what it was. But in the other pack, the other blaster, I got a numbered 1 of 1 Vlad Guerrero Jr. cyan printing plate, guys. When I go on break, I'm going to see if I can find it for you. I put it in it's cased in a box. It's just ridiculous. Just a super, super nice card. Yeah, I'll show it to you guys in a minute. After we go on break. We'll go on break pretty soon. It is currently, we got like 10 minutes. Let's get through the first baseman, and then I'll take a quick break. We'll take a look at that. I got to refresh my coffee anyway. So first baseman, we had, I know what's going on. I figured it out, guys. Figured out why we can't see the bottom. Because I'm dumb. There we go. We had 19 first basemen qualify with 600 or more plate appearances. Jesus Aguilar was one of them. He graded out 17th offensively, but 3rd defensively. How does this dude grade out 3rd defensively? Well, he's got a 73 range and a 78 first base rating. The error of 26, we talk about him every month when we do bronze, and I'm like, he's so overrated defensively just because of the calculations. I really need to make error more important for first baseman because I think it's outside of the first base rating, I think error is even more important than range to me at first base. Hits versus righties, so that's nice, but he's just not very good. The rest of the first basemen are better than him. But a little bit of defense, pretty bad offensively for Aguilar. Number 9 is Wilmer Flores, who can mash versus lefties. He has been my versus. I've used him versus lefties a little bit. He's grading out 18th offensively right now. I don't think he's getting platooned quite as much as he probably should. But number 1 defensively at first baseman. What would have Vlad like right now? Based off of some research, I'm looking at probably between 300 and 500. But that's one that like 10 years from now, if he keeps on his current career pace, that's an investment card. Not like this The Judge that's up here, I'm probably going to offload this Judge pretty soon because I just don't think it's going to increase in value, even though it's a number 3, because Judge is what he is. But the Vlad Guerrero Jr. 1 of 1 from his second season. It's not a rookie, unfortunately, but from his second season. That's one that I think that 10, 15 years from now could be a pretty solid piece someday. Probably not a Mike Trout type piece. Nobody's Mike Trout. Nobody's probably ever going to be Mike Trout again, but it's a pretty sweet card. Wilmer Flores at number 9. Again, really bad offensively somehow. I'm a little surprised to see him this bad. I don't think he's getting platooned right now. Bowman are the best product. If you're looking at getting into baseball cards right now, Bowman are the best baseball card product out there. They're really hard to find. It's a spectacular product. I don't have it in. You can see my Topps binders back here. I got my Topps bindered up, but I haven't done. I finished the Bowman set, and so of the base set. So they're gonna get bindered up pretty soon too. Just bad offensively for Flores, and I'm a little surprised about it because his versus lefty stuff doesn't look all that bad, and I wonder if he's not getting platooned. He really does need to be platooned, does Wilmer Flores, but good defense, and I think he can hit versus lefties. I'm really surprised to see him, and you can even see over here, everything's a little bit better all time, where I think he was probably getting platooned a little bit. Does play some second base and some third base as well. Alan Wiggins comes in at number 8. Here's the nameless poets guy. Some splits here, but not big. 13 points of I is the big split. You got 4 points of gap and then 5 points of avoid Ks. He can run. He can play some first base, left field, center field, right field. Wiggins comes in at number 8, grading out 5th offensively, 16th defensively at first base, but it's first base. He gets a lot of value because of his speed. 60 steals per 600 is pretty ridiculous, especially with an 80% success rate. That's pretty darn solid for Alan Wiggins. He comes in at number 8. Number 7, not getting a ton of play at first base right now. Most of his play has been as an outfielder. Carl Taylor, your number 1 most used first baseman. Little bit of split versus lefties. 14 points of I, 4 points of avoid Ks. You got 4 points of contact, a little bit of power, 9 points of gap versus right-handed pitching for Carl Taylor. Not great defensively, grading out 14th defensively, but grading out 4th offensively for Carl Taylor. Number 1 in batting average at 284. Number 3 in on-base percentage. The slugging's a little bit low. Not a lot of power here, but the OPS, the weighted on-base average, are both pretty solid for Carl Taylor. I would recommend platooning him if you can, or using him as a utility guy. He can play first base, left field, right field. He comes in at number 7 at first base. Number 6 is my versus lefties currently, Jose Martinez, who is back in as my versus lefties masher. 14 home runs per 600 for him isn't super high, grading out 3rd offensively though, with a 271 batting average, 337. Can we see a comparison between Taylor and Wiggins? Taylor there, Wiggins here. I don't have the player comparison tool ready yet. Oh, here. I know what you... I figured it out. Wiggins and Carl Taylor. Here we go. Do they complement each other? I think they complement each other a little bit. I don't know that you necessarily have to platoon Wiggins if you're playing him. I think obviously he's going to be a little bit better in a platoon. I really think that Taylor, I mean, both of them will benefit from a platoon, but I think they complement each other pretty well. Defensively, they're about the same. They're basically the same. They're basically the same card. It's just that Taylor has a little bit more power, and Wiggins obviously has a ton more speed. I think they complement each other pretty well if you want to run a platoon between the two of those guys at first base. Number 6 is Jose Martinez. We talked about him already. 752 OPS, which is way down. I get the feeling based off of the numbers I'm looking at right now that we had a pretty big influx of people into bronze yesterday, and they're not platooning guys who really should be platooned. Also, Martinez has to be platooned, so keep that in mind. This card just absolutely has to be platooned. If you're running him out there versus righties, he's going to get absolutely destroyed. Neither would start for you, but you have room for one of them to be a multi-positional backup. Interesting. How effective is letting the game set up your team? It sets your team up. It's fast. It's a lot faster than trying to set it up yourself, but I think that if you take the time to do it, you're gonna make your team better if you pay attention to what you're doing. Basically, is what I'm getting at there. You got an 89 Billy Ripken Fleer, nice. Yes, I know why. Like letting your basically like letting your 5-year-old drive. Todd Helton is number 5. Rating out 8th defensively, 6th offensively for Todd Helton this week so far over a day. 1,800 plate appearances total, just misses out on the top 10 list, so not a ton of use for Helton right now. What's he doing? He's 333 weighted on base average, is right in line with his all-time numbers. 246 batting average, 364 on base percentage. Splits versus righties. So he's a guy who will play almost every day for you if you're using him in a platoon, which he really, again, he's a guy who really needs to be platooned. The avoid case is good. The eye is pretty good. The contact is a little bit low. That's going to be a pretty low batting average on balls in play for Helton. Usually start with... Yeah, and sometimes if I'm just trying to get a tournament going, I'll let the computer. But once you set it up once, it generally stays the next time you go into the same kind of tournament too. So Rizzo comes in at number 4. What's up, guys? 237 average is low. I knew he was going to have a low batting average, but almost 20 home runs per 600 plate appearances, a 326 on base percentage, a 408 slugging percentage, a 734 OPS, a 326 weighted on base average. And I think you may be able to get a little bit more than that out of him if you're platooning him. He will strike out quite a bit. The avoid Ks of 60 is not great. He'll walk a little bit. I think the batting average over time, this is only a 625 plate appearance sample size. I really think if he's getting platooned, that batting average will at least get up to a 250, which is at least usable. A 237 is really low, but I think you can coax a 250 out of Anthony Rizzo. I don't know. I'm going to keep trying him for a little bit as my versus righties and see what happens with him over a little bit more time. But I will say that I didn't have a lot of luck after I put him in the lineup either. So we'll see how it goes. Number 3 is Chick Gandal. He's grading out 12th offensively somehow, but 2nd defensively. He's 3rd in steals. He's just not that great at... Wow, those are some pretty big drops this week. Does Gandal need to be platooned? No, I don't think so. I think Gandal can play every day. He's not going to hit for a ton of power. His on-base percentage is going to be kind of okay. The slugging percentage, OPS, all of the rate stats are going to be a little bit low. But he makes up for it by being really good defensively and a very, very, very good base runner. I would say the 2nd best base runner that is first base eligible. 9th in strikeouts. He's not going to strike out too much, kind of middle of the pack there. He also won't walk too much. 71 runs created per 600. I'd really like to see a little bit more than that out of my first baseman, if I'm being totally honest. But I definitely think it's a usable card. It's one that if you want a guy who can play every day, Gandal can do that. And he is a proven winner as well. So he's a guy who's been on a lot of successful teams. Number 2 is Ji-Man Choi. I picked the wrong live update card to put in my lineup, apparently. Grading out 7th defensively, which is a little bit surprising to me. Definitely not a Gold Glove level first baseman, but not awful, I guess. A 45 error, 36 range. 64 first base rating isn't bad. Pretty solid power. Definitely splits versus righties. So you're going to want to platoon him again if you can. Third in walk, second among first basemen in runs created per 600 at 83 over 700 plate appearances. 30 speed, 51 steal. Not a ton of speed going on here. Yeah, the avoid Ks is a little bit low. It's actually way worse than Rizzo. And you can see that reflected in, well, I don't really know. I'm not seeing it reflected anywhere except in the strikeouts per 600 where he is 19th out of 19. He will strike out a lot. I'm a little surprised to see his batting average so much higher than Rizzo's. I still lean Rizzo. Even though the early results on Ji-Man Choi here are looking a little bit better, I am definitely still leaning Rizzo over Choi. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Number 1, I really don't know, is Frank Isbell. I don't know who this is. Number 1 offensively, number 4 defensively, a 72 range, 40 error, 69 first base rating. Over 1,100 plate appearances, Isbell has dropped a 266 average, 338 on base percentage, which is made very useful by the fact that he has 50 steals and an 83% stolen base percentage. Wow. We'll check Lou Blue. Give me a minute. 85 runs created per 600 for Frank Isbell and a 3.5 WAR over 1,100 plate appearances. I've never seen this card before. It is interesting. Needs to be platooned. Can only play versus righties. I think that he will really, really struggle a lot versus left-handed pitching. But I think this is a card that can play really well against righties. And I don't know that it's number 1. I don't think I love it as number 1. His all-times, yeah, he's grading out. I mean, even all-time, he's grading out 4th. The rate stats are a little bit low. He's definitely getting a lot of benefit of his, because of his base running. But it's, I mean, 85 runs created per 600. I don't love it. I want a little bit more power out of my first baseman. Let's see. Lou Blue was at 11th. What do we say about him? 9th defensively, 11th offensively. Number 1 in on-base percentage, though. And with a little bit of speed, I think that's definitely useful. Very good eye, avoid Ks, gap power contact versus righties. I think he can play versus lefties too. Obviously, he's going to be a little bit better versus righties than he is against lefties, but I definitely think he could play versus lefties. 9th in weighted on base average with some okay defense. The 24 error is a little bit concerning for me for Lou Blue, but usable. I think it's usable. CJ Cron at number 12, number 1 in home runs at 22. That's about what you're going to get out of CJ Cron. Very good power numbers. The avoid K is a little bit low, not quite Ji-Man Choi level, but if he had higher avoid Ks, he's probably a silver card. So I think Cron's a usable card if you want a guy who plays every day. Also splits, you know, a little bit of gap, a little bit of eye, a little bit of avoid Ks versus lefties. So maybe makes a good platoon with Rizzo, perhaps, for Cron. Number 13 is Alou. Grading out 8th offensively, 279 average is good. 433 slugging percentage is number 1 among first basemen. 4th in OPS, 7th in weighted on base average, 6th in home runs, and 7th in steals per 600. But not a great stolen base percentage, so keep that in mind. You probably want to have him go a little bit easy on it. 75 runs created per 600 for Alou. I do like the Lou Blue card, looks really good. 2002 Minnesota Twins, David Ortiz comes in at number 14. Man, I feel like if you platoon this card, he might hit okay versus right-handed pitching. I don't know. That's probably about what you're going to get out of him, a 245 or so batting average. You can see all-time his numbers are a little bit better. Really significantly better all-time. 416 slugging, 753 OPS all-time, and 1,500 plate appearances. Not good defensively for Ortiz. 15 is Ham Hyatt. 16 is Bob Unglob, who can run and hit for some power, you know. Unglob is not good defensively. 10th offensively. The 250 average, 297 on base percentage makes his base running ability a little bit of a moot point. But he does hit for some power and run if you're looking for a guy like that. He's getting pushed off the cliff for you. I can see this being a really, really frustrating card. For sure. I think this is one of those cards that I really feel like if it's playing well can make your tournament, but I can see this card being a really, really frustrating card. You know, like a bases loaded, nobody out kind of inning ending card. Dick Krahowski at 17. Nippy Jones at 18. Solid versus lefties. I do like Nippy Jones. And at 19 is Bill Buckner. Probably want to stay away from him. 19th offensively, not great defensively. You've been trying Ortiz. Not impressed. I don't blame you. You don't have the Isbell card. Anybody else have it? I don't think I do. It's a new card. I think it just came out last month. Yeah, oh, that's... What am I doing? And there's none available right now. Oh, that's sad. All right, guys, I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to refresh my coffee and be back in just a moment. And Dish will be happy that my break time screen now shows Out of the Park 22. So I'll be back in just a moment. All right, I'm back. I promised I'd show this to you. Let me see if I have a full screen camera. That full screen? Oh no. Hold on. There we go. How's that? There you go. Oh, get it a little bit further away. That is your printing plate, Vlad Guerrero Jr., numbered 1 of 1. Let's see if we can get a good view there. Ah, this camera is not doing wonders for me. It says, this is the actual cyan printing plate used to manufacture the cards. It's a one-of-a-kind collectible. It's pretty sweet. It's a pretty... I was pretty happy when I opened that. Not gonna lie. It's pretty cool. It's my second 1 of 1. So the other 1 of 1 is the Yuli Gurriel 1 of 1 that's back there somewhere. It's that was a pretty good birthday present. I was pretty happy with it. What are we at? Where are we at right now, guys? You have a Star Wars card like that? Nice. Second baseman. Should we go to second baseman? 96 Nels Potter? No way. That's awesome. Let's see. Second baseman. We had 15 qualifiers at second base. Louis Arise is our most used second baseman overnight. David Fletcher at number 2. Ha-Seong Kim at number 3. Let's see where they end up. Tommy LaStella comes in at number 10. However, is grading out second offensively at second base. Looks like he's going to be a pretty useful guy against right-handed pitching, perhaps. I don't know about staying second offensively among second basemen. He is definitely not a great defensive second baseman, which I think limits his value a lot. Second base is a pretty important position to me. I think that the avoid case with the contact, he's probably going to keep up a pretty decent average, 279. You can see it's up a little bit from his all-time numbers, but defensively, I just can't stomach playing this particular card at second base every day. Maybe as like a first base, second base, third base, utility guy. Perhaps I just can't play this card at second base every day. Maybe get away with it at third base, but I doubt it with that 54 arm. Number 9, there's Ha-Seong Kim, who's your third most used. However, he has a lot of use because of his defense. He's worse offensively than LaStella, obviously. Doesn't really have too much of a split. You got 3 points of power and eye versus left-handed pitching, 4 points of gap and 2 points of contact. So he's going to be a little bit better versus lefties. And he's one of those guys that you can platoon him versus lefties and then have him back up second base, third base, shortstops on his days off. There's a lot of guys here in the middle infield and bronze that you can do that with. He can run a little bit third in steals. Also has a little bit of power, third in home runs among second basemen, but the rate stats leave a little bit to be desired right now. A 247 average, 314 on base percentage, 362 slugging, 676 OPS are all right in line with his all-time numbers, which isn't awful for a guy who plays these positions and does all of them relatively well. You know, he's not a guy who's really good at one position and then awful at a whole bunch of other positions, or awful at all of the positions he's able to play. He's a guy who can play multiple positions for you and be a straight up starting player versus left-handed pitching, I think. For Ha-Seong Kim, he comes in at number 9. I think he's a fantastic utility option. Number 8 is Louis Arise, who's grading out 5th offensively but 12th defensively at second base. Louis Arise got a left field rating, guys. Did he always have a left field rating? I can't remember. He's grading out 10th defensively at second base, which is a little bit sad, but a 288 average, 355 on base percentage for him, 366 slugging, 722 OPS, 325 weighted on base average. He always had left field rating, so I'm just silly. He's back. He's staying in bronze for another month, and we're all pretty happy about that because he's probably the best on base percentage card in the format. It is all singles. For what it's worth, he's going to be probably your number 2 hitter if you're putting him in your lineup. He's not quite fast enough, I don't think, to lead off, but he can drive guys around the bases, get your leadoff hitter from first to third when he gets on, and then score when your number 3 and 4 hitters are hitting bombs for you, hopefully. 3rd in strikeout avoidance, 4th in walks. Just a seriously awesome on-base percentage for Arise. You had to give up on Kim with so many Bronze Series going 7. He just started too often with. Yeah, I can absolutely see that. I like Arise. I very much like him versus right-handed pitching. I think he's usable versus left-handed pitching. It's up to you to decide where you want to play him. Is the defense good enough at second base to play him there with that offense? Perhaps. Does he need to be hidden at third base? Maybe. I don't know that I love the 65-51 range arm combination at third base. Can you play him in left field? Sure. I tend to lean towards having him at second base. He's not a top tier defensive second baseman, but he's not as bad as like a Listella. I think he's playable at second base. And he is a good hit and run guy for second in the lineup as well. Very much agree. Number 7 is Solano, who's grading out 5th defensively and 8th offensively. For Solano, 278 average, 319 on base percentage. Pretty good defense at second base, thanks to that second base, that 70 second base rating. It looks like basically all of his plate appearances have been as a second baseman. Not too much of a split. Splits a little bit versus lefties. So he's, maybe you use him in a platoon with Louis Arise. You have him bat versus lefties, or move Arise to left field or whatever. Again, with these multiple positions, shortstop not so much, but with multiple positions like this, you can use them in a utility / platoon and get really creative with it. Very good stolen base percentage for him. However, only 3 steals per 600. He's just not that fast. He's just a good base stealer with decent defense and decent offense. I think Solano is an interesting second base option. Number 6. I like Solano. I think he's pretty good. Whit Merrifield comes in at number 6, 11th defensively, just a step below those last two guys. Plays wherever you want him to, basically, except third base and shortstop. Can play some right field. The arm's a little bit low for right field. He has a left field rating, so he can play out there. His best position, obviously, I think, is second base, because his arm's just not good enough to be a seriously good right fielder. Splits slightly towards left-handed pitching. So again, kind of perhaps a platoon at second base with one of those other guys, with an Arise or whoever you want to platoon him with, and back up your outfield on the days he's not playing or whatever. You can get that's one of the things I really like about Bronze, is that you can get really creative with some of these live cards and the positions that they play. And so Merrifield comes in at number 6. He did drop 2 points to a 67, from a 69 to a 67, but his numbers still look pretty okay so far, grading out 4th offensively as a second baseman. I missed Tovar from 21 too. Mike Aviles comes in at number 5. This is a 2010 snapshot. Mike Aviles, a 305 batting average last night, guys. And 16 steals. Holy smokes. 339 on base percentage is pretty good. Slugging a 408, OPS 747, weighted on base average at 329. This is a heck of an offensive second baseman. Grades out 12th defensively, but it looks like the arm and the error are dragging that down a little bit. You're going to get a little bit more batting average versus lefties, a little bit more power, very little bit more power versus righties for him. I think he's kind of has to be a left-handed platoon. That's slugging. Now, you can see his slugging last night was 20 points above his all-time. Yeah, I don't think a 408 holds up. He's definitely think he's closer to that 390 than he is to a 408, which would put him down in like the 720 OPS. But his average and his on-base percentage are right in line with his all-time numbers. I don't think he maintains a 408 slugging at all. I could see his weighted on-base average staying in the 320 range, though. Junto is not a Bo Sox legend. Aviles played for the Red Sox for a little bit. He did not play for them in 2010, though. He comes in at number 5. I think this is a usable card, too. This is a card that I don't remember seeing previously, but I definitely think it can be a usable card. Number 4 is Louis Guillorme. I think I'm going to gloss over Louis Guillorme for now, because he is more of a shortstop than a second baseman. He's a very good defensive player. He's very good defensively here at second base. Kind of bottom third offensively, pretty low batting average. The on-base percentage is okay, but he doesn't have a ton of speed to make that worthwhile. The weighted on-base average of 306 is bottom half among second basemen. If you're going all in on defense, I think you're probably better off playing him at shortstop. he's just not great offensively. Sadly, I wish he was just a little bit better. He is a pretty good defensive player. If only Guillaume was a righty, so you could platoon him with Arias. Correct. That would be very nice. But he doesn't really have any splits either. It's just, I mean, it's 2-3 points. I guess he's got pretty significant split in eye versus right-handed pitching. He did drop from a 63 to a 61 this month, so expect to see some. I don't know what the individual rating drops were, but expect to see. Yeah, lower batting average right now, lower on-base percentage, way lower slugging for Guillaume over his 2,200 plate appearances last night. He comes in at number 4, mostly because of defense. Next up is David Fletcher. One of our better utility options in bronze, continues to be a good utility option, but it's all defense. He's not an offensive utility player. Grading out 12th out of 15 among second basemen with a 358 slugging, 318 on base percentage, 272 batting average, none of which are terrible, but there's better options out there. And but he's very good defensively at all of the positions that he plays in the infield. You can have him at second base, third base, shortstop, and he's going to be pretty good at all of those positions. Grades out second defensively at second base. The on-base percentage a little bit low. Can run just a little bit. Fletcher comes in. He's a clutch hitter, is what My Mice Forever says. Bronze legend. If he hits iron, shortstop is going to look real rough in bronze. Perhaps. You can still play him as an iron, though, if he drops. And so he's at number 3. You're correct, and I forgot that Simmons is there at shortstop now. So apologies. I talk a lot and sometimes forget things. Do I have ground into double play data? I don't think so. Let me check. I don't know if I'm downloading ground into double play stuff right now. I'm not. And I would have to start the whole spreadsheet over if I decided to do that too. That's a good question. You're running Fletcher, Okendo, platoon with Simmons at short up the middle. Yeah, I forgot about Simmons going down too. Sometimes I forget things. Segura comes in at number 2 though. He's number 8 defensively, number 6 offensively. 279 average, 330 on base percentage. So a step down from Fletcher and from Solano and from Guillaume defensively, but not that much. He's still got a 68 range, decent turn double play, a pretty good arm, and a 67 second base rating. He's pretty firmly in that second category. Not too much splits for Segura. He can bat against lefties and righties, and will probably keep up a 280-ish or so batting average, 275 to 280 with a 320 to 330 on base percentage. I think is probably what you can expect to keep seeing out of Segura. Number 1 in WAR. Among second basemen, which is a little bit surprising to me. 73 runs created per 600 for Segura at number 2. Number 1 is Taylor Walls. Okay, let's talk about Taylor Walls. Why is he number 1? 3rd defensively at second base. This is a new card from last month, I believe. I don't love it offensively. I don't love it offensively. I don't know why he came out at number 1. A little bit of power here. I don't think that keeps up. It's only 763 plate appearances, a 261 average, 330 on base percentage, 70 runs created, 2.67 WAR. I don't love it at number 1. Stolen base percentage. Yeah, don't. 23 points of speed over steal is going to have a very low stolen base percentage. You want to tone him down. You're going to look at this and see a whole bunch of blue here, right? And a lot of people will look at this and be like, oh, I want to pump his steals up. But he is not going to be a good base stealer. I don't know how he ended up at number 1. Really, it's just so his numbers offensively are a little bit better right now than some of the top defensive guys. I don't love it though. I don't think I really like this card offensively. In fact, I think I hate this card offensively. 384 slugging, 714 OPS, 319 weighted on base average, and I'm not sure that he keeps those up. if I'm being totally honest. You've seen some stupid good WAR numbers from him. Interesting. You're desperate for a backup. He does switch hit. I mean, the I avoid K's combination with an okay contact with an okay gap is, I mean, it's okay. I don't think it's unusable, but I think there's guys that I would play above it. I don't think these numbers keep up. I really don't. He came in at number 1, but I'm not sold on him. I'm going to try him out, though. Rich McKinney comes in at number 11. Number 1 offensively, bad defensively. This is a card that you can run as a designated hitter, I think, especially against left-handed pitching. It's a pretty solid offensive card, Rich McKinney. Not a great second baseman. Number 12 is Nick Madrigal, who's grading out 9th offensively and 7th defensively. Average at 282 on base percentage. 13th in WAR is dragging him down just a little bit for whatever reason. 9th in slugging, 9th in OPS, 282 batting average. You're going to get some decent offense with some okay defense out of Madrigal. Whoops, wrong way. I think Madrigal is a pretty interesting option versus lefties, but he's definitely a step down defensively from some of those other guys. 13 is Tito Fuentes. Let's not use Tito Fuentes. 14 is Kurt Wilkerson, who is not very good either. And 15 is Jose Oquendo, who's grading out 9th defensively, but almost entirely based off of his 100 error rating. I think he's playable versus lefties, but the numbers tell me otherwise. 15th in almost every rate stat and just mediocre defensively. I kind of lean towards like an Arise. I like Arise Merrifield. I think is a pretty good choice with Fletcher backing up other positions as necessary kind of stuff. Maybe a Rich McKinney as whatever. You have Walls at 2.1 WAR per 600 and 4,500 plate appearances. What did I have him at? I think he was right around that. Whoops, too far. I had him at 2.67. So you had him a little bit lower than I did, but I'm curious. I might throw him in and see if I can't get some more data on him. I don't love him. I don't love it. If I'm being totally honest, I think it's probably at this point it's probably, I like the Avilas. I think this card looks interesting. But I think it's probably like a Merrifield or Rise Platoon or something like that for me going forward. Shortstops, do we have to do shortstops? I don't want to. We only had 8 qualifiers at shortstop. I think I know why we only had 8 qualifiers at shortstop. 311 weighted on base average is not awful. I mean, it's bad, but it's not super bad. Ahmed Rosario comes in at number 8. Playing well for the OHBL Cubs right now. Let me tell you, he's our backup utility infielder. And the OHBL Cubs are 2 games above 500 and 1 game out in the wild card in the middle of May. And if we could ever learn to beat the St. Louis Cardinals more than twice a year, we might have an okay team. 62 speed, 74 steal is okay. He remained a 64. He is a proven winner at 22.86% of his points. Offensively, he's grading out 7th out of 8. Defensively, he's grading out 6th out of 8 at shortstop. If you're going to play Rosario, I actually prefer him as a third baseman more so than a shortstop. I think that he just is not good defensively at shortstop. Maybe as a second baseman for Rosario. I think Wallace benefits from good D and not having any real hitting competition. I agree. Only reason there are 8 is because you need a backup shortstop. Yeah, probably. If I calculate my own WAR from the other individual stats you have, it's compiled using the WAR in game. I don't do anything crazy. Trying to compile it myself. Basically, I just take their WAR per 600 in game. Which lends itself to being weird. Because they could have, 10 plate appearances at a full WAR or something ridiculous. They happen to go 10 of 10 or something like that. 10 for 10, 10 of 10. That was dumb. Madrigal grades out last defensively at shortstop. I really can't justify playing Madrigal at shortstop. If you're going to play him, he needs to be at second base and probably versus left-handed pitching, though he will have a pretty good batting average versus righties as well. He comes in at number 7 at shortstop. Number 6 is Andy Stankiewicz, who grades out 4th defensively, 5th offensively, 254 average, 314 on base percentage, 344 slugging. Not any power to speak of, but a pretty okay on base percentage for a guy who plays decent defense at shortstop. I don't think too many people are using Stankiewicz anymore right now. Madrigal was number 2 among shortstops offensively. Number 5 is Ha-Seong Kim, grades out 5th defensively, 3rd offensively. Again, I really think this is a pretty interesting utility option. But we already talked about him, so we'll just move on. Number 4 is Jose Vizcaíno, your third most used shortstop now over last night. Remember that day we thought Vizcaíno, I just told you no. Hold on one second. Okay. Vizcaíno grading out 3rd defensively, but it's a pretty distant 3rd defensively now for Vizcaíno. And offensively, he's just not providing nearly as much as I would have liked. I really thought he was going to be awesome. I still feel like I have to apologize for that. Vizcaíno at number 4. Number 3 is Build a Legend Tony Fernandez, who grades out last defensively, but number 1 offensively. He can play. He can hit. This is a card that can hit versus lefties. Sorry, I just smacked you guys in the microphone. Number 1 in every single rate stat among shortstops over 1,054 plate appearances. Number 1 in WAR at 2.73, but defensively is very, very deficient at shortstop and only plays shortstop. Bad. Number 2 is Louis Guillorme. We talked about him at second base. I think that he probably is a second baseman now. Number 1 is Andrelton Simmons. He's not very good offensively. Let's just get that out of the way. 8th in batting average, 244. 7th in on-base percentage at 294. 8th in slugging, OPS, and weighted on-base average, but still 2nd in WAR because he is far and away the best defensive shortstop. Like 6 points of defensive value over Louis Guillorme. It's just huge. He's the best defensive shortstop in bronze, probably the best defensive shortstop in silver too. Well, I mean, Nick Allen's pretty good, but he can't hit night. It's just war. You feel like Vizcaíno was the best option? I like Vizcaíno. I thought he was great. Your Simmons has 0.6 WAR higher than second place and 240,000. Yeah, I'm not surprised. His defense is awesome. His defense just sets him apart. I've got him at 2.5. Who did I have at number 1? I had Tony Fernandez at number 1. But again, that's a super small sample size. 2.5 WAR per 600 for Andrelton Simmons, entirely based off of his defense. If you're running any type of ground ball pitchers, you're going to want Simmons in your lineup. He comes in at number 1. Let's get these outfielders knocked out. We had 11 qualifying left fielders. Let's just start with number 11 and get it out of the way. Hal Mcrae comes in at number 11. He's 7th offensively, 9th defensively. He will luck into a home run or two eventually, maybe. Mcrae can hit a little bit, can play defense a little bit, kind of, sort of. I don't like him. I probably wouldn't play him. Some of his rate stats look pretty good, though. 731 OPS, 326 weighted on base average. 8 home runs has him 4th among left fielders, which seems not accurate, but we'll see what the rest of the guys look like. 5th in runs created at 76.7. And solid OPS, decent weighted on base average, pretty bad defensively in left field, though, for Hal Mcrae. He comes in at... I did third base. Did I skip third base? Haha. I totally skipped third base. Joke's on you guys. Bobby Dahlbeck comes in at number 9, which is sad. He does hit home runs on the rare occasion that he makes contact with the ball. I want Bobby Dahlbeck to be awesome He's just not. Home runs, that's it. Number 8 is Pinky May. He comes in at number 8. We had 9 qualifying third baseman. 1,300 plate appearances for Pinky May. He's grading out 9th offensively, but 2nd defensively. Decent avoid Ks versus both lefties and righties. And yeah, when you got Simmons out there, you don't need a third baseman, right? So Pinky May is last in home runs, last in steals, number 1 in stolen base percentage, though. Rate stats, we're looking at 8th out of 9. 9th in slugging, 9th in OPS, 8th in batting average out of our qualifying third baseman. Come on, Excel. There we go. Number 7 is Build a Legend, Adrian Beltray. Platoon him versus lefties. He'll get some home runs. Use him versus righties. He'll have a little bit better on-base percentage versus righties, I think. 6th in average, 8th in on-base percentage out of 9. Number 1 in slugging, number 1 in home runs among third basemen. 8th defensively, which is just a travesty. Adrian Beltray. This is the 2007 version of Adrian Beltray, but Rose and Simmons equal league average defense. Fair statement, I think. Beltray comes in at number 7. 429 slugging, 726 OPS is where he excels. Home runs, but definitely not great defensively at third base. Number 6 is Pete Rose. 9th defensively, 1st offensively. So he is so bad defensively that he is bad. Very good offensively. Number 1 offensive value for Pete Rose. And if you have Simmons at short, then he's just going to be sitting on the third base picking daisies anyway. So very, very good versus lefties. He's going to hit versus righties as well. You may be able to platoon him and coax a little bit more defense or offense versus righties, but I'm not really sure. We'll see what the rest of the guys look like and if anybody looks better versus righties. I don't really think they do. And if this card, I feel like they had to make this card terrible defensively just to justify it being a bronze for Pete Rose. Designated hitter. Yeah, if you have Simmons, Rose is probably the option here. Jack Dunn at number 5. 7th defensively, 4th offensively. I like this card a lot. It's a little bit better defensively than Rose, though still not great. Offensively, the lower batting average, lower on-base percentage, a little bit of power, and can run. 32 steals is number 1 among third basemen, and 2nd in stolen base percentage to go along with that for Jack Dunn at number 5. Number 4 is Lenny Harris, who can play versus righties, perhaps as your... You kidding me? I gave you water this morning. I need my kids back. Harris has to be platooned versus right-handed pitching. Pretty much has to be platooned, but he'll give you pretty solid offense if you do platoon him. 294 average, 340 on base percentage, grading out 2nd offensively, 5th defensively at third base, so giving you that range and arm that the Pete Rose and the Jack Dunn don't necessarily give you. Number 3 is Art Shireen, who is going to give you different stuff versus righties than versus lefties. I think he can play every day, to be honest. And Shireen, he's grading out 4th defensively, 6th offensively. I think you'll get a pretty good batting average again from him against righties, but you'll get a little bit of doubles. You get some slugging percentage versus lefties from him. And I really think he could play every day at third base for you. You don't necessarily have to platoon him. If I was going to play him and platoon him, it would probably be against righties, though, just because of what he does. You have a Frank Isbell? Nice. You'll have to let me know how he does. I'll keep an eye on it. David Fletcher comes in at number 2, but it's entirely defensive. We know all about David Fletcher at this point, so I'm just going to move on to number 1, which looks like it's probably... It can't be. Gene Segura comes in at number 1 at third base, grading out 3rd defensively and 3rd offensively. Gene Segura, 4th in average, 4th in on-base percentage, 4th in slugging, 3rd in OPS, 3rd in weighted on-base average, 2nd in WAR. A little bit of power, some steals. We saw him at second base and didn't love him. Do we like Segura at third base? I do. Pete Rose, a designated hitter. Gene Segura at third base. I'm going to throw him in there as a reminder to myself. I haven't been updating my projected lineup as we go. because I'm being lazy today. But I do like this card at third base. Pete Rose is as a DH. This is a card, man, just lock down that infield on the left side, right? Throw some left-handed pitchers out there. I like it. Segura at third. Good arm fits better at third. Yeah, no, I like him at third. Solid. I think we nailed one of them today at least. I like him at third. Left fielders. Case was at number 10. We started with 11, right? It was Mcrae at 11. George Case at number 10. He's grading out 6th offensively, last defensively in left field out of our 11 players. Solid batting average at 286. Not a ton of power, but right in the middle of the pack at 7 home runs per 600. Some base running ability. Again, right in the middle of the pack there. With 34 steals per 600 and 71% stolen base percentage. For Case, 8th in runs created per 600 at 75. I know a lot of people really like this card. I think it's been surpassed by some cards though. Number 9 is Alan Wiggins, who can play versus righties or versus lefties. Can run. He's number 1 in steals per 600, number 4 in stolen base percentage, 3rd in on base percentage, 10th defensively in left field, just ahead of George Case. Not quite similar cards, but almost similar cards. Wiggins is going to be a little bit lower on the on-base percentage, but a little bit higher on the slugging, I think. Well, no, that's not true because it's all doubles. Doesn't hit a lot of home runs. The choice between Case and Wiggins is, do you want a little bit more steals out of Wiggins? Even with terrible D, you like Case way more in right. Let's see. I think that's interesting. We'll see if he shows up in right field. He may, because it looks like he's got 2,500 or so missing plate appearances, so he might show up on the right field list. I'm not sure. The 31 arm is a little bit scary in right field, but I think there's some better offensive options in left field is probably why you like him more in right. Case and Wiggins are who you start with almost. Left field is, I think there's just a little bit more offense to be had from guys who only play left field. So Podsednik pops up 6th defensively, 9th offensively. I haven't seen too much of this card. I think he showed up last month, right? He came down with the defensive update at the end of May. And so this is the second month we're seeing him. He's coming out number 8 in left field at this point. Number 1 in batting average, though, at 288. Just has no power to speak of. And the 10 points of speed above his steal ability is a little bit concerning. That stolen base percentage is going to be kind of low. Doesn't strikes out quite a bit. Doesn't walk very much. It's a lower on base percentage than some of the more offensive minded left fielders, but solid defensively for Podsednik in left field. 7 is Lee McGee. Can play every day. Okay defensively, 7th defensively, 3rd offensively. Bless you. 397 slugging has him number 2 among left fielders, number 1 in home runs at 13. There's just not a lot of power down here anymore. Or ever was. There never really was a ton of power down here in bronze. And so the 13 home runs per 600 is number 1 among left fielders. And so the on-base percentage is pretty low, but he does run. This is an interesting card to me. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I kind of agree with you guys, like right off the bat, that a Jones-Reigns platoon is probably the way to go. Jose Tabata is a guy I've looked at as a utility outfielder, but his offense is just bad. He's very good defensively on left field, but his offense is kind of abysmal compared to some of the other left fielders that are on the list. 329 on base percentage. If he played second base or something, that would be fantastic. But in left field, that's pretty bad. 254 average, 343 slugging, 670, an OPS below 700 in left field, and a weighted on base average at 304. I just need more offense out of my left fielder than that, even though he is very good defensively in left field. Reigns comes in at number 5. Mostly because he's a little bit deficient defensively. He is number 1 offensively with a 374 on base percentage, a 766 OPS, and a 345 weighted on base average. Play him versus righties and he will mash for you. And he's not so bad that he's going to kill you defensively, especially if you have a good defensive center fielder, which you're probably going to need if you're running a Rains platoon out there. Second in runs created at 82.36 out of left fielders. Number one all time. His numbers dropped slightly this overnight, but still looking like a pretty solid option versus right-handed pitching for Tim Raines. Number 4 is Davey Jones. Let me go back. Raines is 74-73. Raines actually, and even versus lefties, like you can play him every day. You're going to lose a little bit of gap and a little bit of eye playing him versus lefties, but he can play every single day out there. Now, the question becomes, do you want to platoon him versus lefties and have Davey Jones out there versus righties? I know some people do that here in bronze, and I don't think that's the wrong way to go. I definitely think Jones needs to be platooned while Raines can play every day. Jones gives you a little bit more defense than Raines does. He's dropping a 268 average, a 371 on base percentage. Number 1 in WAR among left fielders right now. Walks are a big part of his game to go along with a good running game as well. So solid on base percentage player, not a lot of power. You're going to get a little bit more power out of Raines. Not a ton, but a little bit. But Jones is going to be on base and he's going to be running, and he's a really, really useful weapon on the base paths is Davey Jones. I think he's a solid option versus right-handed pitching. Number 3 is Mickey Hatcher. I think we saw this one for the first time last month too, and I wasn't necessarily sold on it, but number 2 defensively in left field. Offensively, nah, I don't love it. Offensively in left field, a 288 average isn't bad, but he doesn't run. And it's going to be all mostly singles, maybe some doubles versus righties. He would be taking over for Jones, right? And he's going to give you a little bit better offense than Jones, or a little bit better defense than Jones, but the weighted on base average is pretty low. He doesn't provide the base running that Jones gives. What was Jones's weighted on base average? 3. Actually, his weighted on base average is pretty similar with better defense. I don't think Mickey Hatcher is unusable against right-handed pitching either. He just couldn't hit for you. Nice left field version of Fletcher. Interesting. Plays a little bit of first base too. Interesting looking card. Don't love it, but I'm not prepared to throw it out offhand. We'll see what we get out of him going forward. Number 2 is Taylor Trammell. Did you see his walk-off the other day? Man, that bat flip was incredible for a rookie. Well practiced. Decent defensively, 4th defensively, 8th offensively in left field. I want more offense out of my left fielder. Could he play as a utility outfielder? Perhaps. What are we getting out of him? A 242 average, 338 on base percentage, 374 slugging, 321 weighted on base average. Number 3 in WAR. But again, keep in mind that some of that's probably coming from playing some backup left field, or not left field, center field for Trammell. Yeah, he's been struggling a little bit early in his career. He went down to AAA and came back. He's hitting a little bit better since he came back up. He's also good if you want to run Hatcher is good if you want to run a bad defensive center. Or you're talking about Trammell. Trammell is good if you want to run bad defense in center field, perhaps. He kind of is what he is at this point. He does hit for a little bit of power out of left field. Number 2 among left fielders in home run, but that's about it. Number 1 is Dan Gladden. God, I love this card. If you're running Raines or if you're running Davey Jones versus righties, I think Gladden is a pretty solid option versus lefties. He's got power. He can run. I wish the on-base percentage would come back up just a little bit. You can see it's up a little bit now. He has to be platooned, unfortunately, versus lefties. I've been running him for a while. Like I said, I'm going to look into revamping the entire team this week, but this card is just fun. It's good defense in left field with pretty good offense as well. What's the usage of right-hand pitching versus left? It's 80% right-handed pitching, so he doesn't get to play very much. For Gladden, it's basically 65% starting pitchers are right-handed and 80% relief pitchers are right-handed right now. So he doesn't get to play much, but when he does, it's a really, really, I really like this card. He's a pretty cool card. I love it versus lefties. The problem is it's all he does. He's very limited in his ability to really get to play. Like, he doesn't get to play very much, unfortunately. And the other problem with that is that he only plays left field. So I think it's such an awesome card versus left-handed pitching in left field, but it's so limited in scope. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, that's how I feel about it. I might keep him in just because I love him versus lefties, but I don't know. Probably need to figure something better out. Center fielders. Oh, you guys wanted to look at some. Shooting range should be a federal crime. Bad Weave thinks Reigns should play every day. Fourscore loves Reigns. Reigns at number 5. All I do is numbers, guys. I just do numbers, and he's number 1 offensively. Like he's far and away number 1. But with defense being calculated in, that's why he drops. I do think he's probably the best everyday option in left field. Just so we're all clear on that. You're seeing why your team is struggling. Who was the top second baseman? I don't remember. Was it Guillaume? Taylor Waltz, a guy that we'd never seen before, was at number 1 at second base. You might move Rose to everyday third base so you can play Reigns every day. Arise was not number 1. Struggled a little bit overnight. Center fielders, we had 14 qualifiers. Let's just go back and look at 14 through 11. 14 is Mike Felder, 1992 snapshot. Looks like he can hit versus lefties a little bit, but not too much. 10th offensively, 8th defensively. 13 is Mike Cameron, Build-A-Legend. Not quite as good as some of that higher level Build-A-Legend Mike Camerons. He's 7th defensively, 9th offensively, 2.42 WAR per 600 for Mike Cameron. He comes in at 13. Number 12 is Maurice Archdeacon, who's just not very good. 11th defensively. I'm not really sure how he's putting up the 6th best offensive numbers. It's mostly, he doesn't even steal. I don't know offensively. He's putting up number 6 in runs created at 71.63 somehow. 69 walks, a 699 OPS, and a 364 on-base percentage for Maurice Archdeacon. Number 11 was Lee McGee. Good base runner. Number 3 offensively. We saw him in left field. I like him a little bit better in left field than I do in center field for obvious reasons. He's just not a great defensive center fielder. You talking about Archdeacon? Yeah, that's a pretty stellar on-base percentage at 364. The defense is just a little bit low for me. McGee at 326 on-base percentage, grading out 3rd offensively, 14th defensively in center field. The top 10, Thomas Howard comes in at number 10. We've seen Thomas Howard as high as number 1 on the center field list with a smaller sample size. Obviously, we got the sample size a little bit bigger, and he falls kind of back down where we expected him to. Not any power here. Defensively, he's just kind of middle of the pack. He's 5th defensively. So he's good defensively and provides a little bit of offensive value as well. A 269 average, 326 on base percentage is pretty good. Not an elite base runner, but not going to kill you on the base paths either. I wish the stolen base percentage was just a little bit higher. I think that there's probably some people out there who are being a little bit more aggressive with him than they should be. Wow, that was a good freeze. Solid OPS, 680, puts him 8th, and weighted on base average puts him 7th among center fielders. Yeah, you're welcome, Teddy. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Rocco Baldelli comes in at number 9. He's 4th defensively, 12th offensively. Plays only versus lefties. He's got to be platooned versus lefties, but he will hit pretty well versus lefties. I think he can get a little bit higher than a 295 on base percentage, but still not great offensively for Baldelli. At this point, 12th out of 14, 20th out of 27 all time. This is a card that I really liked about a month and a half ago, but am definitely moving on from it. Number 8 is Joe Birmingham, comes in at number 8, 6th defensively, 7th offensively. By WAR, he's 5th. 3rd in batting average at 276. Decent base runner as well. 27 steals per 600, 73% stolen base percentage for Joe Birmingham at number 8. Number 7 is Felipe Alou. We're going to skip him. Number 6 is Manny Margot. 3rd defensively, 13th offensively. Do we think we can get a little bit more offense out of Manny Margot than we're seeing right now? Do we use him versus righties? Do we use him versus lefties? He's got some interesting splits. 58 avoid K, 55 contact. Probably using him versus lefties, I would guess, even though you get a little bit more power versus righties. So you're going to have to probably platoon him versus lefties. Good base runner. Looks like people are being safe with him. Some weird stolen base numbers for him. A little bit of power. 5th among outfielders in power. 75 center field, 89 range, 57 arm, 73 error. Decent defensive center fielder. Margot with Valentine as your backup. He's he's good. I think he's a pretty solid option in center field. Good defensively. He's a little bit of a mixed bag offensively, but slightly better than, let's see, where was Baldelli? Right around, probably slightly better than Baldelli. Also can play versus lefties and righties if you need him to, for Margot. He's good D, can play right field as well, can play left field. If you want to platoon him versus lefties, I think he's a solid option. Number 5 is Charlie Dexter. I'm going to be honest, I'd rather play him at catcher than in center field. He got 3,300 of his plate appearances are as listed as a center fielder. I actually prefer him as a right fielder than as a center fielder. But he is what he is. He's number 4 offensively, 13th out of 14 defensively in center field. Yeah, I agree. He's okay as a backup center fielder too. If you're running like a Margot every day or something like that, I think that he can work as a backup. I don't think I want him as an everyday center fielder though, for Dexter. Number 4 is JBJ, who's grading out 1st defensively in center field. He is grading out 14th offensively. Got his average up over 200 for last night's Sims. 279 on base percentage. Let's see, he went from a 68 to a 65. Can you platoon him versus righties and hide him and then have Margot play versus lefties perhaps? Maybe. You can play a little bit of right field, but I really think you want offense out of your right fielder for Bradley Jr. as well. Yeah, I agree on Dexter. I think he's fantastic as a utility guy. I just don't know that I want him playing at these particular positions every day is the issue with Dexter. His bat is so good though. JBJ is pretty clearly not great offensively, but is very, very good defensively as a center fielder. Number 3 is Bill O'Hara, who isn't good defensively, but can potentially be a utility guy. But really, the problem with O'Hara is that he has pretty heavy splits versus right-handed pitching, which is good in the format. Kind of like him better as a right fielder or a left fielder, personally. Number 1 in steals among center fielders, though. Number 3 in on-base percentage. It's just that defense in center field is a little bit concerning to me, especially if you're running a guy like Raines in left field. I really think you got to go with one of the better defensive center fielders. Margot is also a much welcome righty bat versus righties. Agreed. I think I tend to agree with you on Margot over JBJ. The difference in defense is weighted pretty heavily in center field, and so that's kind of where JBJ is getting a lot of his points from over here. But I do think that Margot is a better option for an everyday center fielder. Number 2 is Kiermaier, who's grading out 2nd defensively and 11th offensively at this point, who I actually think might even be a better option than JBJ at this point too. JBJ's defense is so good, but Kiermaier is so limited in the fact that he only plays center field, and he's got some pretty significant splits versus righties too. That said, that's 4 out of every 5 games is he's going to be playing against righties. So, but again, the only center field is a little bit of a drawback for Kiermaier. Gives great interviews, I will say that. His interviews are hilarious, but I think I like Margot over Kiermaier too. Even though, like, again, Kiermaier's getting a little bit of a bump from his defense because it is slightly better. But I think Margot is just going to be more consistent and a better offensive player. Number 1, who is it? I don't know. It's going to be 722 plate appearances of Al Gianfrido. What is this guy? I haven't seen this card yet. This is a new one to me. I don't love this card as a center fielder. This card might play as a left fielder or a right fielder, though. 294 average, 375 on base percentage, 342 weighted on base average. You running him in center field? Obelix? You ran him as a utility outfielder? Interesting. Interesting looking card. Splits versus righties. Not super heavy, but moderate splits versus righties, which is useful. Very good batting average, really good on base percentage, weighted on base average, number 1 in WAR, number 1 in runs created at 83.77. Doesn't strike out, 4th in walks. This is a very, very interesting card. You ran him as a utility outfielder. You yanked him last night. Obelix runs him as a center fielder. I like him as a 4th outfielder, but you can start him versus righties. That's a tough one because I almost prefer him in right field, but I just don't think his offense is going to stack up. I'm going to give him some run, though. I might try him out. I'm going to throw him in here just for curiosity's sake. We're going to finish right fielders. Alan Wiggins showing up everywhere. We had 15 qualifying right fielders. Let's just go through 11 through 15. The range is a little bit low in center field for him. Bud Sucott comes in at 15. This is a card that I really want to be good, but only plays versus lefties, and I have a feeling he's not getting platooned. He still is number 2 in home runs, but I think if you can platoon him, you're going to get closer to these numbers: a 229 average, 288 on base percentage with 20 home runs per 600. I don't think he's getting platooned anymore. And a negative .14 WAR is concerning to me. Does play a whole bunch of positions, so you could platoon him in right field or in left field and then have him utility backup. But really, if he can only start versus left-handed pitching. 14 is Doc Cook, who can only start versus right-handed pitching and can run a lot and really well. 14th defensively in right field. Don't play him in center field. And not good enough offensively to be a designated hitter. Doc Cook at 14. George Case comes in at number 13. 15th defensively out of 15 players in right field. So not good defensively in right field. We talk about, are we willing to give up defense in right field for some offense? Perhaps. I think Case is playable in right field. Grading out 6th offensively among right fielders with a 286 average, 338 on base percentage, 384 slugging, 723 OPS, and a 322 weighted on base average. 12th was Bob Ganley, who splits versus righties as well, and also runs 63 steals per 600 with a 345 on base percentage. We might see some interesting numbers from our right fielders moving up the list. 73 runs created per 600 for Bob Ganley at number 12. At number 11 is Harold Baines, another guy who splits versus right-handed pitching. Cook is platooned with Case in right field. Where'd Cook go? 14 and 13? Okay. Baines at number 11, grading out 8th offensively, 10th defensively, 8th in average and on-base percentage, 3rd in slugging, 5th in OPS, and 3rd in weighted on-base average for Harold Baines. He comes in at number 11. His all-time numbers are a little bit better than that. So, again, I feel like... Braun started kicking off really, really fast yesterday. And so I feel like we may have gotten a pretty big injection of people just throwing teams together. And I think there's a lot of these guys like Baines who are not getting platooned at the moment right now. And so it wouldn't surprise me to see better numbers out of Baines going forward, to be honest. You're using Southworth for right field for the D. Southworth's getting used a lot. Number 10 is Alan Wiggins. We've talked about him a lot. Love him at first base, left field, right field. You can put him wherever you want, and he'll play well, except center field. I probably wouldn't put him in center field. He's 5th in runs created among right fielders. Defensively, he's a little bit of a step down, but still a little bit better than like a George Case. I do like this card a lot. He can play every day if you want him to, and is a very good base runner. We've talked about him a lot, so I'm not going to harp on him too much. Carl Taylor at number 9. Doesn't necessarily have to be platooned, but grading out second offensively among right fielders, ninth defensively among right fielders. I think Taylor's an interesting option. Also plays utility. He's kind of he's a fun card because you can put him in right field, left field, or first base, and then use other utility options there. You don't like sacrificing power with players like Wiggins. I'm down. I totally get it. Yeah, and that's fair too with the game being on sale right now. Number 8 is Mike Tauchman, center fielder for the San Francisco Giants, and he's a freaking highlight reel in center field for the Giants right now. So he's been out there every day making ridiculous plays. Offensively, he grades out 13th among right fielders. I can still kind of see using Tauchman as a utility outfielder just because he's pretty good defensively in left field and right field. His bat just doesn't stack up at this point. I just don't find his bat to be usable at all. A 349 slugging percentage is not great in right field. A 300 weighted on base average is pretty low as well. Doesn't really make up for it with his speed. Doesn't really make up for it with his power. He's not one-dimensional. He's just kind of not dimensional offensively. Still, if you're looking for a decent backup utility defensive left fielder or right fielder, I don't think he's necessarily unplayable. He was definitely better earlier in the season. Bill O'Hara comes in at number 7. We saw him in center field too, I think. Defensively, he's grading out 8th here in right field, 3rd offensively, so his numbers stack up pretty well among right fielders, especially as a platoon. Decent base runner, 1st in steals, 2nd in stolen base percentage. The on-base percentage is good. It's a walks-heavy on-base percentage, though. And so keep that in mind. You're going to probably want him to bat leadoff or 9th in your order, which if you're running Simmons, you already have a number 9 hitter, unfortunately. And so it's up to you when you're putting your team together. If you're just going all steals, I don't know who does that, but O'Hara is pretty good. Stick with what works. You hate to change a team that's doing well. I agree. Last night, based on the umpire's field over. Yeah, let's not bring up Angel Hernandez in chat. That'll make me angry. Wiggins is at like 110 steals per 600 for you. I'm not surprised. No need to. Yeah, I agree. Keep running what gets you the packs. Whatever's working for you. Don't change your stuff up just on account of me. I'm just showing you the numbers that I'm seeing. Margot comes in at number 6 in right field. Number 1 defensively among right fielders. 14th offensively. I really think if you're playing Margot, it has to be in center field. Obviously, he's somewhere between 600 and 800 plate appearances as a right fielder. So somebody was running him as a right fielder. I just really think his offense needs to be in center field. It's just not good. Number 5 is Max Kepler, who has some power versus right-handed pitching. Number 1 among right fielders in home runs overnight at 18.15. Dropped from a 69 to a 68. I mean, he'll hit some bombs versus righties. Plays some okay defense, 4th defensively. Decent stolen base percentage, but not going to run all that much. The average and the on-base percentage are concerning. Good slugging percentage, decent weighted on-base average, decent OPS for Max Kepler, but I don't love him at right field. Billy Southworth comes in at number 4, 3rd defensively, 11th offensively. I wish there was a way to get a little bit more offense out of him. Try to platoon him if you can, maybe with, I don't know who was better versus lefties. There's not a lot of right fielders that are like a Carl Taylor or a, maybe a Wiggins, maybe run Wiggins at first base versus righties and then versus lefties in right field. You can get really creative with some of these guys. Southworth, though, comes in at number 4. You don't like Southworth? He's got a little bit of power versus righties. He really has to be platooned, though. And he only plays right field. So that's where, I run into a little bit of trouble with my team because I had Southworth on my team for a little bit. I don't know if he's still there. To be totally honest, I kind of just threw the team. I filled the one hole that I lost yesterday and then just kind of ran the team that was running previously. But when you're running Southworth in right field and then Gladden in left field. You run into you got two guys who are straight utility guys that don't play other positions, and it makes it gives you a real roster crunch. Southworth and Case, I think, can work. His offense definitely isn't awesome, but he's pretty good defensively, and he's not the worst offensive right fielder, especially if you can platoon him versus righties. But it definitely makes fitting the puzzle pieces together a little bit more difficult when all he plays is right field. You platoon him with Witt in right field? Yeah, Gurriel was the one guy I lost. I don't think I lost any pitchers. I don't think I was running any of the pitchers. Merrifield here, speaking of, decent splits versus lefties, 6th defensively, 5th offensively among right fielders. Interesting. Merrifield as a right fielder. 4th in average, 9th in on-base percentage, number 1 in slugging. Interesting platoon option with Southworth. I can see it. I can see running that. And so I think that's an interesting option. We talked about Merrifield at a couple positions before. Second base. Well, second base might be the only other position we saw him at. 744 OPS for him. Puts him 3rd among right fielders, 5th in weighted on base average. Decent offense with decent defense in right field. I can see him being the left-handed side of a platoon in left field. Number 2 is Ollie Brown, and 635 plate appearances of Ollie Brown. I'm assuming he's getting platooned because he's dropping a 291 batting average, 373 on base percentage, 764 OPS, and a 344 weighted on base average. Those numbers are way up from his all-time numbers. All of those numbers. I don't think he keeps this up, and he's middle of the pack defensively. Decent defensively. Certainly not an unusable card, I don't think. Almost a card that could potentially play every day, but I think he really needs to be platooned versus lefties. Does Ollie Brown. I really don't think he keeps these numbers up. You can see this OPS is 40 points above his all-time. 344 weighted on base average is 20 points above. The on-base percentage is 25 points. Everything's super high compared to his all-time numbers. And I don't know if it's probably small sample size noise right now. But I don't know if somebody decided to put him in and just platoon him. And we're seeing way better results from him. I don't think a 72 contact with a 67 I and a 59 avoid Ks is unplayable versus righties. I think when you start talking about a 54, 53 I avoid Ks with a 68 and no gap power, he's very close to unplayable versus righties, but I don't think he's unplayable versus lefties. But yes, and also he only plays the one position, and it's not that great. So I don't think it's a super valuable card or a must play, but I don't think it's an unusable card either. For Ollie Brown at number 2. I don't know who number 1's going to be. Bob Ganley? It looks like Bob Ganley. Nope. There he is. Alex Verdugo. Plays all 3 outfield positions. Number 2 defensively in right field. Grading out 7th offensively right now, but 3rd in home runs, 2nd in slugging, 7th in average and on-base percentage. Both of those numbers are pretty good. Not great, not terrible. 735 OPS, 327 weighted on base average. This was the guy we watched him come down from silver. We talked about him at the top of the show. Only a 320. Yeah, I'm a little surprised to see the weighted on base average that low. You've been using him. He just came down to bronze yesterday, though. So were you using him in silver, Castanar? He's with non-live cards, just look at all-time stats. Yeah, and that's fair too. But I have to figure out how to do it some way. You may have to find a spot for him. Yeah. I like this card. I think it's solid. You can use him in right field versus righties. I think that if you start him every day versus righties, he's going to be pretty solid, and then he can back up your outfield position. So he's not like some of those other guys we've seen on the list where they only play the one position. I think this is a pretty phenomenal bronze card. I'm really surprised that he dropped this far, but I guess he has been scuffling a little bit lately. I'm also surprised to see how big his splits are versus lefties as opposed to versus righties. Because one of his kind of call signs for the Sox has been that he hits lefties a little better than you expect a left-handed batter to these days. But, it is what it is. I like this card. I think it's a pretty good one. Platoon him, but he got put on all of your bronze teams. Yeah, I don't blame you. You got him at a 332 in 3,400 plate appearances, which is kind of right in line with this. So we'll see what he does for us the rest of the month. I'm pretty excited to add him to my bronze lineup, though. I don't remember playing him too much in silver. I don't remember seeing him too much in silver. But I think this is a card that could be a pretty solid bronze card for us for the month of July, and hopefully go back to silver next month because I'm a Red Sox fan. You think it's time to cut Southworth? Yeah, great two-way value. Yeah, no, good defense, good offense as well. So I do like Verdugo. We had 28 pitchers qualify. Starting pitchers, relief pitchers, and then packs. I changed it up today. I am going by earned run average instead of FIP today. So let's see how that looks. I haven't done any. I'm thinking about going back to doing some weird calculations, but I didn't love how no matter what I did, something got way overweighted in the calculations. So I went to FIP for a little while. We're going to go straight up results today. So earned run average is what our pitchers are being rated by today. And Ryan Yarbrough comes in at number 15. Yarbrough runs a 76% start percentage, 397 FIP for him over 2,200 innings pitched over the last night or so, with some of that being bullpen, some of that being as a starter. 5.25 innings pitched per game is pretty solid. It's number 5 out of 28. And a 1.49 walks is number 3, so top 5 in walk suppression. I like this card a lot. He's 12th in FIP. This is a card, so Yarbrough was a good bronze card last year as well, and having him back in bronze now, I think he dropped last month to bronze or showed up in bronze or something back in May, the end of May, and so he's getting a lot of use, so there's a lot of large sample size noise here, I think, too. He's very, very consistent. He's a pretty consistent performer, having a little bit of home run trouble overnight, but I think he's a solid pitcher, but he comes in at number 15 with a 4.09 earned run average. Number 14 is Donovan Osborne, 1992 rookie sensation. This is a card that's been pretty consistent for me as well, with a 399 FIP, 406 earned run average for him. He's top 15 almost in home runs, so top half-ish in home run suppression, almost top 5 in walks at 2.09. Just a 65% start percentage. The only other there were a couple proven winners. I don't remember who they were. Yarbrough was one too. He's right there. There were a couple guys that popped with proven winners. I don't remember who they were off the top of my head. We can go look at the top 20 here in a little bit. One of the issues that I'll run into now that stuff's being adjusted is that guys that were on it last month that moved up to silver that can't be used anymore may still be on there because it's from the all-time list or the all-time stats. Osborne at number 14. Solid control again. Lowish kind of stuff. Not going to strike a ton of guys out. 24th out of 28. And almost needs to be, not almost needs to be, but I think that he could be a solid left-handed specialist out of the pen. The lower stuff, lower movement versus righties is a little bit concerning in the format right now because we do have 73%. You know, the righties plus switch hitters go like 73% righties. So that's something to keep in mind with Osborne, but dropping a 406 earned run average on us. Their stats look identical despite the ratings difference. Yeah, they're kind of similar. It looks like a huge ratings difference, right? But it's really, so it's just a couple points of movement versus both. So it's about 5 points. And then Yarbrough is going to strike more guys out than Osborne. So you can see it's about 1 strikeout and it's about 1/10 of a home run per 9 innings pitched. And then their control's pretty similar. Yarbrough is slightly better. Osborne a little bit better. But yeah, it all kind of works out to ERA and FIP being pretty darn similar between the two of them. They're both really consistent pitchers in my experience. Number 13 is Madison Bumgarner, who Was a 69 last month, remains a 69. Only 751 innings pitched, so it's a little bit of a smaller sample size for him, but a 403 earned run average. The FIP a little bit higher at 4.39, so perhaps some defensive stuff going on there. He is a fly ball pitcher with really low movement. Home runs are an issue. They're a pretty serious issue for Bumgarner, but he's top 10 in strikeouts and top 10 in walk suppression too, so it's not hurting him too much on the earned run average. It's hurting his FIP a little bit, but it's not killing him on the earned run average because his whip overall ends up being pretty good for Bumgarner. I think it's usable, but you have to know what you're getting into with him too. And you're probably going to want good defense behind him because you don't want errors turning into home runs. You got a work call for the last hour still wrong. Yeah, I'm trying, man. I'm trying. I'm taking a nap after this. It's been I did not sleep well last night. Denny Galehouse at number 12. I don't remember seeing this guy before. 267 innings pitched overnight, dropped to 4.01 earned run average and a 383 FIP. Just a 60% start percentage for him, though, for Galehouse. Very good home run suppression, second. Almost top 10 in walks, 14th out of 28 in walks. Galehouse isn't going to strike too many people out, and his whip's going to be a little bit high. But if you put a good defense behind him, I think this is a card, especially a good outfield defense. Hello, Alex Verdugo. I think this is a card that can perform well for you. It's good movement with a fly ball pitcher. The batting average on balls in play is going to be pretty low. Throw a good defensive left fielder out there, and I think he can pitch pretty well for you. The whip is terrible. The whip is bad. I agree. But it doesn't turn into a ton of runs, so just keep that in mind. The whip is pretty bad, but the FIP and the earned run average overall look pretty good for Galehouse overnight. Domingo Germán comes in at number 11 with a 394 earned run average. The FIP at 422. Almost top 10 in whip. Puts him at 11th. Home runs are an issue for him. It's kind of the opposite of what we're seeing out of Galehouse, whereas Galehouse lets up a lot of base runners, but keeps the runs down. Germán doesn't let up a lot of base runners, but lets up a lot of home runs, which bounces his FIP just a little bit as well. And 242 walks per 9 puts him just outside of the top 10. Good strikeouts for Germán, though. Overall, 59 stamina, 4.5 innings pitched per game, 65% start percentage for Domingo Germán. Did we see Merton in the outfielders? I don't think so. I don't remember seeing him at all. We'll check him out. You can check him out now if you want. Let's see. Merton. Interesting. That's an interesting looking card. Defensively, he plays left field. Low running speed. I don't remember seeing him. Does anybody remember seeing him? Let's take a look at him. Let's go over here. Sorry, I'm bouncing away from the pictures for just a minute. So I only had 450 plate appearances from him, but in those 450 plate appearances, we had a 310 average, 369 on base percentage, 421 slugging, almost an 800 OPS, and a 350 weighted on base average. 9 home runs, 46 walks, 86 strikeouts, 3.5 WAR per 600, over 400. That is an interesting looking card. No, we didn't see him. And so let's see. Let's check him out again. Let's go to these ratings again. Definitely needs to play. Yeah, so the lefties are keeping his appearances down, and he only plays left field. So if you can fit him, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. I'm gonna be honest. I might think about swapping out Gladden and giving Merton a try. That's an interesting looking card. Not gonna lie. Cell just froze, so give me a second. There we go. Interesting looking card. I'm gonna write that down. I lost my pen. Merton left field. Okay. I'm gonna give him a try and see if we can get anything out of him. Where were we? Starting pitchers. Moving into the top 10, Mike Minor comes in at number 10. Pretty big splits versus lefties. It's 11 points of stuff, 6 points of movement, so you're going to see him struggle a little bit versus the heavy right-handed hitters, which is, bad. Can you put him in the bullpen? Sure. He's getting a 67% start percentage, 64% all time. Was a 392 earned run average, 396 FIP for him over the course of last night. Top 5 in strikeouts, top 10 in walk suppression. Does have a little bit of a home run issue, almost a home run per 9 innings, puts him 23rd. But the whip is very good. 1239 whip has him top 5. Minor looks like a potentially solid addition to your staff. And only 392 innings pitched. So keep the small sample size in mind. He does have a noodle arm. Merton does. Well, now we're surprised. Bill Bonham drops a 386 earned run average on us overnight, a 380 FIP, which puts him at number 9. Number 1 in strikeouts, top 10 in home run suppression at .51. Struggling with the control a little bit, Bill Bonham, at 3.78 walks per 9, which is right in line with his all-time. 1369 whip. Every now and then, I like Bonham. I don't think he's as consistent as some of the other guys on the list. Poor Bonham. Everyone should drop him. You're just saying that because you want to start winning games, I think. I've never been as in love with this card as some of the other people. I've had him because he's been consistent, because, the other guys have been kind of up and down. I think he's a pretty consistent card. Number 1 in strikeouts. He's a good bullpen guy. I like him. Yeah, I think you can get him out of the bullpen. The stamina's a little bit low. I think you've seen a little bit of an infusion of guys with better stamina coming down from silver or showing up as new live cards as well. So I think that Bonham specifically has probably dropped just a little bit down the pecking order. Maybe. Is he part of the big 3 still? I don't know. You guys will decide that, not me. But it was a 386 earned run average and a 380 FIP, which actually are right in line with his all-time numbers overnight. So let's see who is better than Bonham last night. Daulton Jeffries and his 75 stuff, 45 movement, 84 control versus right-handed hitters. Dropped a 385 earned run average on us last night with a 373 FIP, 5.14 innings pitched per game, a solid 60 stamina. Usable. For sure, I think this card is usable, especially with the heavy right-handed batters that are currently going on right now. It is an 8-point split in stuff, 6-point movement split. So if you can get away with him in the bullpen as a right-handed specialist, I know I say that a lot. But, all of the bronze cards have warts. And so Daulton Jeffries, I think, is an interesting option at this point that is putting up some pretty good numbers overnight with a 373 FIP and a 385 earned run average. Didn't get used much before last night. So, curious, did he take over for Suter? Like, people saw Suter leave and they're like, oh, Daulton Jeffries, you're like Brent Suter, just with a little bit of stamina. Maybe. Got lucky with home runs in this sample. It's right in line with his numbers there. I do think that he's probably going to struggle with home runs a little bit for Daulton Jeffries, but I think he can be a bullpen guy too. Luck plus pitch around slider for sure. I've been pitching Jeffries for the last month. He's pretty good. Yeah, I don't hate the looks of this card with a solid pitch around. I think this is one of those cards, right, that in Perfect Team 21 might have been unusable. But since we have the individual pitcher sliders now, I think that a card like this becomes a lot more usable, and you set him to pitch around, and he ends up being a pretty good card. He's at number 8. Number 7 is Fred Anderson, who has turned into a little bit of a mainstay near the top of the list. He's 4th in use overnight with 3,786 innings pitched, 384 earned run average, 385 FIP, 70% start percentage. It took a little while for people to catch on to Fred Anderson. But if we ever start trending towards left-handed hitters, then you might start seeing some issues with Fred Anderson if we start seeing a heavier left-handed thing. He's got 16 points of split in stuff. He's got 9 points of split in movement and 1 point of split in control. But the 49 stamina lets him get away with it for 4 or 5 innings or so. And overall, he's been pretty solid. We've been pitching Jeffries for the last month. What are we? Let's see. Got lucky with home. Yeah, I don't think he's lucky. It's a power format, and his numbers are in line with Yarbrough with similar rate. I agree. With your take on Jeffries. You don't like Anderson anymore, not even in the pen? Interesting, because he's still putting up pretty good numbers for somebody. Although you can see his ERA overnight came down, so maybe your team was just not good. Fire Red. You must have faced all the left-handed bats because he stinks for you, perhaps. And that's one of the things that you'll run into if you're running him. So I actually think that Anderson is better as a starter than he is as a reliever in the format, because what you end up with in the format, especially with, like, if you run into a lot of teams like mine who work really hard to fit those platoons in there. So like the Jose Martinez at first base, the Gladden in left field. And if you put Anderson in the bullpen, then a lot of those teams are going to be running those pinch hitters late in the game, right? And so he's going to face more left-handed hitters out of the bullpen than he will as a starting pitcher, probably, just because, just because of the way it all works out. So perhaps Anderson, I actually like Anderson a little bit better as a starter than I like him as a reliever. So something to keep in mind. Number 6 is NA. Did we have a tie? Why is number 6 NA? Hold on a second. I don't have a number 6 here. Weird. That's kind of funny. So move all of those guys up one. That's weird. I'll have to figure that out later. I'm not going to mess around with formulas right now. I have no idea what happened there. Matt Strom comes in at number 5, though. You like NA as a starter? Good stuff. Sometimes I wish that's who I could run out there. It's been underperforming for you. No, it's not a Jim Unknown thing. It's just I'm missing a ranking. I don't know. Maybe there's a tie. Let me go. Let me check real quick again. That's not the right thing. 1, 2. Is there a tie for like 7th? No, there's not a tie. I think what may have happened is it's calculating it off of this, and I think this may have been involved there somewhere. The total might have gotten involved there somewhere. So Matt Strom comes in at number 5. Strom has a little bit of a split versus lefties, but not a lot. And he's been another one of those guys who's been a pretty consistent performer here in Bronze the whole time he's been here. 394 FIP overnight, but a 376 earner on average is pretty solid. His FIP is right in line with his all-time numbers. Decent strikeouts, almost top 10. The home run suppression's kind of top half. Very good control for Matt Strom. Set him to pitch around, and you're probably going to get decent results. Number 1 in whip for Strom. I think he's a solid option as a 3, 4, 5 starter. The stamina is a little bit low. So again, you'll see some of the guys at the top of the list have low stamina too. And the problem that you run into is how many low stamina starting pitchers can you get away with here in Bronze? And that's up to you to decide. Number 4 is Build a Legend, Juan Marichal. A little surprised here. Very good numbers for him overnight in 522 innings pitched. He's been an underperformer really since he showed up. Home runs are still an issue for him. He's 21st out of 28. All time, he's 30th out of 35 with a .93. So the home run numbers came down just a little bit. The strikeout and walk numbers stayed right in line with it. 3rd in whip in 522 innings. All time, he's 7th. Like, he's a top 10 whip guy. It's just the home runs have been obviously killing him. He's a very good control pitcher. Doesn't really have too big of a split to speak of and has very good stamina. I know a lot of people don't like this card, but I really think if you can get his settings set up well, he can pitch well for you. And he can be like a 4th, 5th starter who can pitch a lot of innings for you too with that 103 stamina. Marichal plus Anderson's ERAs dropped dramatically from all-time. Good options versus computer lineups. Perhaps. That's a good question, Bisniff. 70 stuff is your floor for Bronze starters, so 64 is pretty low. That's fair. Marichal is way down your list at 228, 465. Interesting. Either small sample size or they're maxing out the pitch around. That home runs won't stay below 1. .85. I am not running him right now. I'm going to be honest. I do think you have to max out the pitch around for Marichal. I do think it has to be all the way up to pitch around. And then you run into the whole, how long is his stamina going to last? But he comes in at number 4, the 373 earned run average. I don't know that it stays that way, so I wouldn't, I'm not going to, say, definitely put Juan Marichal in your rotation. I'm just saying he's a guy who might be semi-useful if you set him up right. Don Gross comes in at number 3. What? 364 earned run average, 367 FIP, 30 stamina, 5 innings pitched per game for him, 84% start percentage. Strikeouts. He does lean towards lefties, so keep that in mind. He pitches well against lefties. Pitches okay against righties. He'll avoid the home runs against righties too. The control's a little bit low. You're going to want to set the pitch around to be a little bit lower. You can, I've heard stories about people getting 6.5, 7 innings per game out of him too. That he pitches really, really well, even late in the games. The hold runners is helpful. As we've seen, there's been a little bit of an injection in steals here into bronze. And there are now a lot of guys who can steal bases here in bronze with decent on-base percentages. So the hold runners is helpful for Gross at this point too. Top 5 in home run suppression, 15th in strikeouts, 16th in whip is a little bit low, but again, the home run suppression helps him out quite a bit. 364 earned run average, 367 FIP are both pretty much right in line with his all-time numbers. He's very consistent. Number 2 is Ralph Works. Yeah? Let's see. What do we got here? Sorry. 631 innings pitched for Works with a 60 stuff, 74 movement, 51 control versus righties, and very little split to go to lefties. Ralph Works is a card that I haven't seen very much or at all. I think this is my first time seeing it, but a 348 earned run average and a 378 FIP. Welcome to the rotation, Ralph Works. 0.4 home runs per 9, 0.37 all time, in 1,400 innings pitched. Interesting card. Very good movement on a neutral pitcher. The control's a little bit concerning to me. That's a lot of walks. The whip's going to be moderate, mediocre. But what do you guys think? What do you think? He's not even a bad shortstop. That's not even a bad. Yeah, it's not a super small sample size. Ralph Works comes in at number 2. I don't think I have this card. We got knocked out of the bronze tournament. None available. Did you guys just buy all of them? Did you guys just buy all of the Ralph Works? They're gone. He's at number 2. And a 46 stamina. I'm going to be keeping my eye out for this card. I wonder if I have it. Did I get it out of any packs yet? The starting pitchers. I do not appear to have a Ralph Works card. What's his rating? 67? Hill and Mize are the only 67 rated pitchers that I have on this particular team. That's a little sad. Yep, no Ralph Works for me right now. It's not a new card, huh? Feels like less cards in the auction house since Sunday. It's probably pretty busy right now with the sale going on too. He just keeps hanging around. I'm pretty sure this is my first time seeing it, and I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna keep my eye out and try to add him. Number 1. If this isn't Satchel Paige, I quit. Satchel Paige is number 1. Do I even need to talk about him? Number 1 in ERA, number 1 in FIP. The card's just filthy. It's that screwball with the forkball, the combination there, the reverse split for Satchel Paige. There's just not enough, man. So he's just so good. He's just good. 71 movement with 74 stuff and good control. I don't the stamina. If this stamina is a 35, this is a silver card. Like, this is a gold card almost to me. It's number 1. It's got to be number 1. I mean, 8 works up now. Jeez, you guys are crazy. How much are they trying to get for him? $250? Oh, that's easy. Let's buy it. Nice. We got one. I'll pay $250 without a second thought. Perfect. He'll get added to the bronze team. Number 1, Satchel Paige. I don't have anything else to say about him. 150K. No, I only paid $250, right? All overpriced. There's got to be a lot of them out there. Like, that's probably one person putting all of his... Is it one of you putting all of their guys out there? Thank you for not making it like 400,000 or something. And at least putting reasonable prices up there. Those are your starting pitchers. Is there anybody else you want to see that we didn't necessarily see? Let's go ahead and do the relief pitchers because they might fall under the relief pitchers, and then we'll check out pitchers that we don't necessarily see. Ken Clay comes in at number 15 in earned run average. He's 8th in FIP. Very good home run suppression, has him 3rd. 0.2 home runs per 9 innings is probably about what you can expect from a guy with his movement. Very good control to go along with it. He's the kind of guy that I really struggle with strategy settings on. The low stuff, high movement, high control guys, I just, you're like, I want him to be in the zone because they're just going to put the ball in play, right? They're not going to hit home runs, but at the same time, he's got that control that he can pitch around guys too. I just don't know. Anyone else using Island? Let's look him up. Island and Chevalier. Oh, what did I click on? Whoops. I might just not have enough innings pitched on them. Chevalier, I don't have enough innings pitched. I'll fix that in a minute. And then Island. Whoops. Let me move my coffee so I can fill it on that keyboard. Dave Island, I've got 240 innings pitched, a 71% star percentage, 479 earned run average, a 412 FIP for Island. Let's see. He's here. 17th in FIP, 28th in earned run average, 25th in WHIP, 26th in strikeouts, 18th in walks. Good home run suppression for him. I don't know if it's a small sample size aberration, but he's not looking great for Island. Clay is really good, especially with Simmons at shortstop. Are we talking? That's our relief pitcher. Let's do this. Change this to 100 and see if we can't find Chevalier. I know he gets used. And Chevalier might be a guy that's on the relief pitcher list too. Let me check and see if he's over here. He's not. I'm a little surprised that we're not seeing. Let's get rid of this filter altogether. How about it? Clear filter. That should give us a lot of guys. Nothing. Interesting. I didn't get Chevalier at all. Can I check John Pacella? John Pacella, 152 innings, 454 earned run average, 453 FIP. 64th out of however many there are now. Looks like a lot. There's a lot of pitchers here. Now that I got rid of that filter. Joe Johnson. Joe Johnson, 441 innings, 447 earned run average, 382 FIP though for Joe Johnson. So solid FIP numbers for him. He actually qualifies under the 200s. Let's see. Got Chevalier at 287, 433, 283, 144. Interesting. Let's add this filter back in here. Go back to 200. And when I throw the filter on, Johnson was 7th in FIP. Yesterday, 2020s. Yeah, I don't know where Chevalier is. Let's do the relief pitchers, and then I'll mess with filters on the relief pitchers and see if maybe he ended up over there. Perhaps. Clay, yeah, you get good defense out there, and Clay's going to pitch well for you. I really think. You're going to need good defense, though. Everything's going to be in play with him. Number 14, we've got another NA, another tie. That's what's going on there is I need to fix the formulas. 16 is Joe Nathan. So we'll call him 15. 350 earned run average and 361 FIP. For Joe Nathan, 2nd in strikeouts, 19th in home runs, 30th in walks out of 34 qualifiers. I know exactly what's going on with this formula. That'll be fixed for next time. It's just because there's such a small amount of pitchers right now. Casey Mize comes in at number 13 among relief pitchers, just misses the innings pitch per game cutoff to be a starting pitcher at 3.91. That's why you're seeing NAs on the left side for him, is because he's probably a starting pitcher in the all-time numbers and not a relief pitcher. Yeah, Satchel would be gold if his stamina was 50. He's absolutely ridiculous. Mize pitches well versus righties. He's got a little bit of a home run issue, 27th out of 34, but the whip is almost top 10. Solid FIP at 393. Solid earned run average at 341 for Casey Mize out of the pen. Number 12 is Anthony Masavich. Proven winner alert for Masavich. He's up from a 61 to a 68, folks. Versus lefties, 89, 53, 71. Versus righties, 77, 45, 66. Not unpitchable versus righties, but definitely going to be lights out against lefties. 338 earned run average, 366 FIP. I think you can probably get even slightly better numbers than that now out of him if you can set him as a specialist. But again, you can only fit so many specialists on your team. He comes in at number 12, 338 earned run average. Number 11 is Ryan Brazier. No. Stuff movement control, everything splits towards righties. Brazier kind of has to be a specialist. You got 14 points of stuff, 11 points of movement, and 5 points of control versus righties. 334 earned run average puts him at 11. And it's right in line with his all-time numbers. 391 FIP puts him at 21st in FIP. 24th in strikeouts and 26th in home runs are pretty far down, but the walks suppression is pretty good at 2.56. Interesting seeing him be as good as he is, because the outlying numbers, the peripheral numbers, don't look that great to me. I haven't been talking much about inherited runner percentage either on these guys. He's 26th out of 34 at 66% for Brazier. Number 10 is Fernando Salas, your number 2 most used guy. So keep that in mind, because there's probably some large sample size issues going on here for Salas. He's another guy who can benefit a little bit from being a specialist, but can pitch against both lefties and righties. I think you can probably coax even slightly better numbers than this out of him if you set him as a specialist, but I don't think he's a guy who has to be set as a specialist, so just keep that in mind. Again, for him, 10th in earned run average, 11th in FIP, 3rd in whip overall out among relief pitchers at 12.29, 15th in strikeouts, 24th in home runs. Little bit of an issue there for home runs, almost top 10 in walks per 9. He's always out pitching his card for you. Who's that, Brazier or Salas? Lowry. I think both of these cards. Another gold card with 16 stamina. You think Salas goes to gold with 16 stamina? Maybe. I like Salas. I love this card. He's a mainstay in my pen. And he is a very, very important pitcher in my bullpen. 68% inherited runner percentage for him. Very, very consistent in my time playing. Jim Britton comes in at number 9. This is your home run suppression pitcher. Not going to strike too many guys out. He's 27th out of 34 overnight. 9th in earned run average at 3.3. 13th in FIP at 3.66. He is a proven winner. 1968 rookie sensation, Jim Britton. Another guy who can pitch against both lefties and righties. You're going to want to set him to not pitch around, or you're going to run into this little guy here. 4 walks per 9 innings is very, very concerning. Brazier outpitches his card fair. Based off of what I'm seeing on that Brazier, he's definitely outpitching his card just a little bit, for sure. And I really think that if you can set him as a specialist, he's gonna be pretty stellar against right-handed pitching. I think that this looks like a guy who will absolutely destroy right-handed batting. That Brazier card. Britton at number 9. Number 8 is David Hernandez. 7 points of stuff, 5 points of movement for him versus righties, so not quite specialist territory, but will pitch better against righties than versus lefties. It's a solid looking card. 2011 snapshot. Let's see, 275 innings pitched with a 324 earned run average and a 347 FIP. Top 10 in home run suppression, 13th in strikeouts, 31 in walks. Number 7 is Fred Wenz. Interesting. 463 innings pitched overnight for Wenz with a 317 earned run average. However, a FIP of 4. The earned run average is an improvement from his all-time numbers by about a quarter of a run. The FIP is a drop from his all-time numbers of about a quarter of a run. Looks like he had some home run issues that affected his FIP last night, but Everything else kind of right in line. More strikeouts, more walks. Looks like he had a pretty good defense behind him that was preventing things from getting too far out of control. Good movement should give him... I'm a little surprised to see home runs be this much of an issue for him, because that's pretty good movement for wins, but a 317 earned run average last night. How do I use Salas, as a setup or a stopper? I use them as a setup. I'm generally either running 2 stoppers or 2 setup guys. I don't tend to mix them because I don't want to make things more confusing than they have to be for my AI, who already struggles enough. And so it depends on kind of what I'm doing with my team. I'll generally use him as a setup as opposed to a stopper. At this point, though, is what I'm running out there right now. Wens could benefit from being a specialist. But again, I think he can be okay versus lefties as well. Number 6 is Jean-Mar Gomes. Put some good defense behind him. Right-handed specialist, perhaps 11 points of movement, 2 points of control, 7 points of stuff versus righties. The hold runners is pretty bad, but still dropping a 71% inherited runner percentage, which is top 10. And so looking pretty good. A 3.12 ERA, a 3.39 FIP for Jean-Mar Gomes, which puts him 3rd in FIP, which is right in line with his all-time number of 345. Yes, exactly. My AI struggles enough is the creed. Number 5 is Archie Bradley. Live Archie Bradley. 69, dropped all the way from a 69 to a 60, though. You can see that ERA came up about 1/10 of a point. The FIP came up about 1/10 of a point. All time, he's number 3 in earned run average at 2.99, but a 9-point drop yesterday is a little bit concerning. Again, I don't know what the underlying ratings drops are, but not looking good for Archie Bradley. 6.89. The strikeouts went down. The home runs came up. The walks went way up. Almost 0.2 of a point for the walks. The whip's still 2nd. Still 5th in ERA, but 12th in FIP with a 364, which went up 1/10 of a point too. So 73% inherited runner percentage, though, is pretty solid. Out of 34 pitchers, he's 5th for Archie Bradley. He's at number 5, even as a 60 rated card. Number 4 is Roger Mason, who's been a guy that's been very consistent from what I've seen. He's gone in and out of my bullpen, but when he's in there, he's pretty consistent while he's in there. 310 earned run average, 313 all time. Not getting used as much as he used to. Only 300 innings pitched overnight, 372 FIP for him. 23rd in strikeouts, 29th in home runs. Home runs are a little bit of an issue for Mason out of the bullpen. 29th out of 34. Number 1 in walk suppression. What were the top non-low stamina starting pitchers? We'll go back over there in just a second and take a look at them real quick. Mason comes in at number 4. Number 3 is Wayne Scherr. Put a good defense behind him, and he'll pitch well for you. I've always struggled with him. I don't think I've put a good enough defense behind Wayne Scherr while I've been using him. Right now, 291 earned run average, 344 FIP, which are a little bit better than his all-time numbers. Solid night for him last night. Top 5 in home run suppression, top 10 in walks, top 10 in whip. Doesn't really strike anybody out. With Simmons out there now, I think Scherr's probably going to improve a little bit. With like a Simmons, man, and now and Jean Segura at third base. I think you can get some good work out of Wayne Scherr at this point. Not getting used as much as he used to, for sure. He was one of the guys. He was one of the top 5 used guys early on. But he's not nearly as consistent as some of the other guys on the list. Number 2 is Matt Wise, 2005 snapshot. I don't know if I've seen this card before. 2nd in earned run average at 288. All time, he's at a 299. 10th in FIP at 361. All time, he's at a 355. Dish hates Ashburn. DRC hates Pop Lloyd. Unicorn hates Scherr. Yeah, I think that's fair. I definitely don't hate Pop Lloyd. That's for sure. No pun intended. Matt Wise, 95 stuff, 58 movement, 49 control versus lefties. 92 stuff, 59 movement, 51 control versus righties. So it's a little bit of an interesting split there that you don't see on all of these guys. Good hold runners. Inherited runner percentage is a little bit low. The peripherals don't look great on Wise. It's just the 17th in home runs. So home runs are a little bit of an issue. Walks are a bit of an issue. Strikeouts aren't spectacular. Just getting results. Somehow getting results. Somebody's got a really good defense behind Matt Wise, I think. The one or two guys who are using him. Is an extreme fly ball pitcher with relatively low movement. Interesting. Good stuff, though. What do you guys think about Wise? I don't know. I might give him a try. You're going to want a good outfield. The 58-59 movement is a little bit concerning for an extreme fly ball pitcher. I'd like to see those about 5 points higher, but just enough that he's kind of middle of the pack here, as opposed to getting totally crushed. You dropped him a long time ago. Better options, you think? How does he do better than Nathan? Good question. Where was Nathan? Nathan was at 16, right? 113, 58, 63. Extreme fly ball, hold runners. I don't know. It could just be usage, honestly. It could just be... I mean... I think way more so than last year, your sliders are really important this year. 95 stuff. He does have a third pitch. He has a really good fastball and changeup. The stuff's a little bit lower. The movement is right in line. The control's a little bit better than Nathan's. It might just be control. Does it have it programmed for Nathan to blow games? Guys, you should... I'm pretty sure it's programmed for the Cubs to lose to the Cardinals. Number 1, Twitchell. Twitchell's number 1. Who do you guys want to see? I don't think I have to talk too much about Twitchell. Again, this is a card this should probably be a silver or a gold card. Twitchell is the must-have card in your bullpen. Can I look at Randy Tate and Ike Camp? See what we find on him. Relief pitcher stats. All right, let's get rid of you. Let's clear the filter. Nothing on Tate's overnight. Camp. Ike Camp, I've got a 343 earned run average. Looks like a pretty bad FIP, though. If I'm being... a 142 FIP modifier isn't great. They're not... the rankings aren't down here just because there's so many cards here. And they don't stretch all the way down. I don't want to make more calculations than I need to, but there's Ike Camp. 343 earned run average. Looks like probably a probably somewhere around like a 4.6 FIP, but keep in mind that's only like 30 innings. It's only like 39 innings. So Tony Pena, Kela, and Hand. Whoops. 42 innings for Kayla. I've got him at 236, but a bad FIP. 171 FIP modifier is going to put him probably right in that mid to high 4 FIP range for Keone Kayla. And I had 418 innings at 385 earned run average and a 405 FIP. So Hand is at now probably just outside the top 15, if I had to guess. Galehouse. I think we talked about Galehouse. 6 through 10 are better than 2 through 5. I tend to agree. It was a little bit smaller sample size on those 2 through 5 pitchers, so I think that affected it a little bit. But I agree with you on the 6 through 10 pitchers being pretty good. We're looking for Steve Wilson. Brabia is a guy that we wanted to look at. 370 earned run average for Wilson in 343 innings and a 409 FIP. So a little bit lower on the list for Steve Wilson. I don't know if we got any. So Brabia, I got 5 innings worth. So I'm not even going to. 318 looks like a decent FIP out of 5 innings, but it's not enough for me to read anything into. Guys, start running John Brabia so I can get some data on him. Stammen, I had 23 innings, sub 4 earned run average for Stammen. Hudson. Best lefty reliever. 1 second. Let's get to that in just a second. Wish they would have done a Rick Aguilera over Nathan. Fair. Tyler Duffy and Taylor Clark. Nothing on Duffy. Clark, 19 innings, 279 earned run average for Clark over 19 innings. So solid small sample size for Taylor Clark. Zero. So his FIP's going to be pretty solid. Whip a little bit high on the whip. Strikeouts, walks are a little bit high for Taylor Clark. Tim Hill. Let's check Tim Hill. Not Rich Hill. Tim Hill, 321 innings, 381 earned run average, 391 FIP. So solid there. Let's do this. Somebody's asking about left-handed relievers. Let's go like this, and let's take this. Go value filters greater than or equal to 100. And we'll close that. There's only a few. Let's go back to here. Lucchesi number 1. Interesting. I cut it down to 100 innings, so 149 innings pitched. Lucchesi's dropping a 272 earned run average and a 360 FIP among left-handed relief pitchers at a 1302 whip. Good home run suppression somehow for a guy with 48 movement. I don't know that the home run suppression sticks, so keep that in mind. Small sample size. Andrew Miller, very good numbers versus lefties. It looks like 282 ERA. The FIP's pretty high. There were 16 left-handers who have more than 100 innings pitched overnight, and Miller was number 2 in ERA. John Means at number 3. Misevich at number 4. Of the guys getting a little bit more use, Misevich is probably the highest up the list. Richard Blyer with 123 innings at number 5. Steve Wilson we saw, and Rich Hill at number 7 was at 2.62. So there you guys go. There you go. Senzatella. Let's see if we can find Senzatella. This is the last one. Then I'm going to open packs. I got to finish up. I need to go take a nap. Starting pitcher stats. Senzatella. Let's adjust the filter. I got nothing on Senzatella right now. Let's see if he popped up in the relief pitcher side. Clear that filter. Clear that filter. Yeah, Senzatella, I've got 113 innings out of the pen at a 602 earned run average and a 428 FIP. That's bad. 602 earned run average is not great. So there you go. That's your list. Let's open some packs. I got knocked out of both bronze tournaments while we were here, so that's cool. Embarrassing. Do we at least make it to the semis and get some prizes? 98-84. Anybody in here with me? Nope. Quarterfinals. Bad. Where we go in 90? So thanks for hanging out with me for the list, guys. We're going to open some packs. I got like 20 on here. I've got, I think, 15 on... I got 10 on the other ones. We got knocked out in the second round of that tournament. 28 packs with the unicorns. These are all from bronze tournaments yesterday. We've got 10 or 15 with the Bruins, and then I've got like 15 or so with the, well, I mean, I guess we'll start with a phenomenal 92 card to start with. Diamond Mission Jimmy Rollins. Brandon Phillips will play on the main team for this team. That's a good start. That's a pretty solid start. I can fill the bronze team with those perfect points if I decide to sell it. Well, and then we'll take a Bo Bichette and Ramon Laureano. Impact number 2. I have not seen... I opened a couple packs this week, but I have not seen a perfect card in a month and a half. So we're due. We're due. I don't really want it on this team, if I'm being totally honest. Tyler O'Neill back up to bronze. He stayed bronze. Atalano, Pat Myers. No complaints about packs. Sam Horn. Boston Red Sox legend, JT Chargois. Here's a Pete Fairbanks. So a couple golds, 2 golds, silver and a diamond so far in like 7 packs. Here's another gold. Lots of live golds. We'll just keep moving on. Eduard Bazardo. Oh, there's a Devers up to an 86. Kind of hoping he'd go diamond soon. Had a little bit of a downturn in the beginning or the end of June, but has starting to come back on. Hellickson, Colby Milner, Louis Torrens. No super usable bronze cards yet. Encarnacion and Jason Castro in this one. And Adolis. He's on my fantasy team. Not very good. He's dropped 10 points this year for a reason. Vic Caratini, who's been a solid addition to that San Diego Padres team in the National League West. Here we go with some Pirates. And Jorge Alfaro. Just found a Duke Twitchell and posted him for under last 10. Good to know. There's a new Bobby Bradley. I haven't seen the ratings on this one yet. 76 power, 66 eye. Guys, this is one to take a look at. We didn't get to see him today. He didn't get any play overnight. But I think I'm going to throw him on the team and see. We're going to check him out after we finish the packs. I think I'm going to throw him on the team and see how he does. He's a new bronze card. The Fairbanks is unusable. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Pinky May, we talked about today. Chris Stratton, Scott Kazmir. Oh, there's a Hardware Heroes Chris Bryant from 2016. Plays some third base, left field, right field. Not a great looking defensive card. Curious if that plays in gold at all. I haven't seen it in gold at all so far. Luke Voigt continues to drop. I love watching Luke Voigt continue to drop. Very fun. That sweep of the Yankees was sweet this weekend. We got 10 packs left on this team. JD Davis and Ernie Johnson as well. The Bryant submission card, nice. New bronze in the mix. You noticed a couple even look like they have potential. Yeah, that Bradley card. Bradley was a good bronze last year, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him be a good bronze this season as well. There's a Build-A-Legend Helton. We get to start working on that. Maybe play him at first base as well. It's a good-looking card. Chas McCormick is no longer in Iron, and I am sad. That one's sad. That was the big Iron card that we lost that I've noticed so far. I haven't looked too deep into Iron yet, but I definitely lost Chas McCormick off of my Iron team. There's an Al Schultz, Giancarlos Mejia, Danny Santana. Prolific leadoff hitter for the Boston Red Sox right now. And by prolific, I mean, there's the new Corey Abbott card. 64 stuff, 46 movement, 51 control. I don't think it's going to play, guys. I don't think it's going to play at bronze, sadly. Let's see. Any other new cards? Not that I recognize. Carlos Santana is a duplicate. Another Danny Santana. Another Brandon Workman. There's a Don Gross. Justin Dunn. Greg Olson. Dominic Smith. Card that I really wish... Did we talk about him today? 62 contact, 62 power. 63 defense at first base. Was he on the list of guys who came down? I can't remember. Open the next pack while I'm checking. I don't remember him being on the list. There's a Garrett Atkins. Who were we talking about? I don't remember who we were talking about. When I say I need a nap, I absolutely mean it. Jordan Romano, Dave Ford, Stu Clark. That's the end of packs for this team. Let's check out this Bobby Bradley card. Team submit was successful. Positions. First base. Where you at, Bobby Bradley? Versus right-handed pitching. Oof. 25 avoid Ks. Dom Smith was silver last month. Dom Smith. Oh, yeah, there he is. I've got him. Got a little bit of play today. Not a ton. 26 plate appearances, so he can go up. Got about 40K for those packs. Not too bad. Not bad. That's all from winnings from yesterday. So, Bradley looks okay. The avoid Ks is a little bit scary, but he will hit a lot of home runs. Let's go open packs on this team. How are we looking? Knocked out of some silver. We got 15 packs on this team. We did win a silver tournament by accident. So I threw the Iron Team in after running bronze for a while yesterday. I threw the Iron Team in and came back a little while later. Realized that they were running 21 out of 26 players on the team. And they went 12-0 in the tournament. So that was kind of hilarious. Bruins are in first place, 21-14. I got a screenshot of that. It was kind of hilarious. Right. This was my Iron Team yesterday. 3-0, 3-0, sweep, and 21-26 players. So, that was interesting for sure. We're out of the park go fails to load. I have not been on it, so I'll be honest. I haven't been using out of the park go all that much. We'll take a Sean Newcomb in pack number 1. My time away from the computer is busy. There's the Spores. We talked about Josh Spores. He went up to silver, I think, and then dropped back down, but doesn't get a ton of use even here in bronze? Mike Sims. There's a Strom. Brian O'Grady. Too bad this team isn't running bronze. There's a Petit. Huge drop for Petit. From an 870 to a 62. John Means, Kurt Suzuki. It was all pitchers. We were running 9 pitchers, I think, on that team. It was, I mean, I guess if you sweep, you don't need a bullpen, right? If you're just sweeping every series, I guess it doesn't really matter that much. Getting 2 games of rest in between each series. These packs have decided that they don't want to be all that good. There's a BJ Surhoff. Perfect Team 21 bronze champion. Mike Jacobs. There's a Richard Rodriguez. New card for this team. Up from a 72 to an 81. Good for the Pirates, I guess. New meta, severely understaffed team. Yeah, maybe just like not having the second tier players on there is helpful sometimes. What do we got left? Let's see. Kevin Smith. We got 3 packs left on this team. 2 packs left. These packs are not as good as the last ones. Oh, man. Wish this was on the other team. Devin White's a decent gold center fielder. Not great. There's better options out there, but I was looking for him for a little while. And we'll close that out. It's all about the sliders for sure. Sliders are important this year. Is that Zach Wheeler went perfect? Holy smokes. What is he doing? Oh, we don't have his 2021 stats. Zach Wheeler. Perfect. Good for Zach Wheeler. He paid for Jackie and Joe Nathan for you? Nice. All right, let's see. Oh, we got another 3rd, 4th place finish today, so that's cool. 4s in a couple hours. I don't think I'm going to adjust my team for that. I think we were close to being good last week. Gold cards. Hop into that tournament. See how the team's doing. We got relegated. down to gold. It was rough. Also got reported for tanking, but I was not tanking. How often do I change my team? Like my main team, I don't spend a lot of time on my main teams. The tournament teams, I'll spend some time adjusting them maybe once a week. I don't think I have any collections to turn in. Nope. All right, we got 18 packs. How are we doing down here in gold? How are the decimals doing? 19 and 17, fighting for a wild card and the division with the Carolina Crush. Check this team out. Yeah, tournament teams are now and then. I'll probably once a week because I want to get. I try not to change them too much more than once a week unless I get a super drop that I like that I want to get added, and that's mostly like gold at this point. A little bit silver, but I don't change them too often because I want to get information on the sliders and players and stuff like that and try to figure out how stuff actually works. So yeah, Corbin Burns went to 102. I saw that one. Yeah, even if I don't win a tournament for a day, I'll generally go about a week on any given tournament team because I just don't think that the 8 to 10 tournaments you're going to get in a day, or 3 or 4 in gold or whatever, is enough of a sample size to tell how the team's actually faring. So unless I'm just like getting knocked out in the first round, if I have a team that's getting knocked out and swept in the first round over and over, then I'll make adjustments right away. But if we're getting to the second, third round, at least, then I'll just leave it for a little bit and adjust sliders as necessary. Because what I do is I take my teams and I compare my batters to what we're actually getting. And so I need to get the sample size on my team as well. Over like this is all old data from old tournaments. But if we go here and take from yesterday, and we can see how how our team fared compared to the sliders. So like, let's see, way underperforming. Like Margot is 36 points below his. We're getting like a 207 average out of Margot right now. Everything's low on Margot, so I probably need to look at him and adjust sliders. Walks look good. Home runs look good for him. But again, it's only a 513 plate appearance sample size too. So for Margot, and then like, let's see. So who is anybody outperforming? Let's see. Arias is performing really well for us right now. Gladden performing really well, but that's going to be a super small sample size because he doesn't play all that much. And then, well, that doesn't make sense. Anthony Rizzo, in 27 plate appearances right now, is dropping a negative 6.67 WAR per 600 for my team. Not a good performance from Rizzo so far for the decimals. A 194 weighted on base average and a 350 OPS for Anthony Rizzo over 27 plate appearances. So I like to get at least a decent sample size. Why do I show card ID instead of title? The title's here too, but I use the card. The card ID is what I use for sorting and stuff like that. So I know the title is, you can use the title as well, but I use the card ID because because there's a lot of places where I have to like type the ID in, and it's a lot easier for me to remember like 21289 as opposed to snapshot, left field Dan Glide, Minnesota, 1988. So that's why I use the card ID. Is like if I'm doing like, I don't think I have anything on this spreadsheet where I would have to type it in manually, but like if I go over to like, let's say there's a player that I'm really interested in and I want to try to get him added to my team. Like if I go over to my team builder and I need to like type him in over here, it's a lot easier for me to remember the card ID than it is for me to, cut and paste or type or whatever. That's why I do card ID. Let's open these last few packs. We got 18 packs for a team that needs some help. Chick Galloway is not going to play shortstop for my silver team. 38 shortstop rating. That card has got to have a crazy avoid K number. Or run ratings or something. Matt Davidson, 63 bronze. Gosselin, Jerry Reed. I don't know what gold cards I'm looking for. I haven't looked at gold in 2 weeks. Alex Mcrae. I think that's a new card. Could be wrong. Got left. 14 packs left. There's a Ricky Leday. I keep waiting for Matt Face to be awesome. Kind of like Bobby Dahlbeck. When he makes contact, the ball goes really far. It's just getting him to actually make contact is a little bit of a chore for Matt Face. There's a McKinstry. Dick Krahowski, Michael Perez. Rosario drops from bronze to iron. That could be an interesting iron card, guys. I don't know if he dropped last month or this month. I'll have to look into that. Hand drops to a 69. 87 stuff, 61 movement. You know, we had a really small sample size on him. That's a card that on its, face value looks like it could be decent out of the pen down there in bronze. Set him to not pitch around at all. Ew. Urshela keeps dropping. I like that. Jeff Bloom, snapshot. There's a historical perfect in these last 12. You can feel it. I don't even know what that is anymore. It's been so long. Frank Gilhooly. Steven Brout, Bailey Ober, JT Chargeois, Kevin Newman. Fred Wenz. Justin Upton. Up from iron. No longer an iron. You pulled a live Franco? Nice. Congratulations. I am interested in getting data on that one. I'm interested if that's a usable gold card at all. I do not know. Have not really looked into it yet. Hauser, Santana, McKenna, Will Smith. That's not great. Wasted our diamond on you. Ooh. This pack's not bad, though. Double silver. Historical cards. Pete O'Brien. No collections. Hirsch Martin. No collections on either of them. Thanks a lot. Yeah, free 4K for Will Smith. Hagerman. Man, I can't. These are rough. I might buy 10 more packs. Last pack. I don't think I completed any collections. In fact, I'm positive I didn't complete any collections. Perfect packs are gone. Not that I could afford them anyway. We're going to do 10 more. I'm going to call this Will Smith. And I sold Byron Buxton yesterday. So, when he went perfect. So, this is our Will Smith, Byron Buxton bonus packs for today. It'll be a Ben Cantwell in pack number 1. 81 movement, 75 control, decent stamina out of a silver card. You pulled a 10K silver, nice. Ryan McMahon. Luis Garcia is interesting, yeah. Kevon Biggio. William Fisher. Tukey. I think Tukey's done for the year. He's on my fantasy team. There's a theme on my fantasy team, and it's that I have players who are not good on my fantasy team. There's a Wade Miley. Ugh. I hear nothing but good things about Wade Miley, and I still hate him. There's a Barrios. Rough packs. They got rough after They got rough after those first couple of packs, guys. This has been a rough day of packs. A Muncie and a Joe McEwen. Kazi Shi. There's a Matt Chapman. least we earn our 4,000 points back. Yuck. That was rough. Chapman should go silver. He's already dropped 8 points. Those were yuck. Those packs were a little bit bad for my soul. We're gonna call it there, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me today. That was a 3.5 hour stream, so I hope you got all your packs in. I'm glad to hear you guys got some good packs. I'm sorry that I didn't. That's not true. We got Brandon Phillips, which is pretty sweet. I think every Yankee should go silver, which would be nice, because that would mean they stink in real life, which is true right now. Thursday, I don't know what they're doing Thursday. Next Tuesday is gonna be Iron. I think we're going to do Iron next Tuesday. I'm starting to collect data on that. It'll be similar to today where we look at the guys who dropped from bronze to Iron. We did lose Ryan Mountcastle, went from Iron to bronze. I saw that. That one made me a little sad. And the other one we just saw that I forget off the top of my head, Chaz McCormick went from Iron to bronze. So 2 pretty decent Iron hitters that we lost. So you guys have a fantastic night. I cannot stream tomorrow. I have some stuff going on with the house. I'm going to try very hard to get the Silver Historical and Sporers stream on Thursday. But I have some contractors coming into the house tomorrow, so I won't be streaming tomorrow. Hopefully Thursday. I know last week I kind of took it off. Once Tuesday happened, I took the rest of the week off, basically from out of the park completely. So trying to get kind of rejuvenated for yesterday, which was a bit of a chore. But we're going to hit Sporers and we're going to hit the Sunday Historical on Thursday. And we'll talk about the TABA had their opening day today. So we'll talk about the Transatlantic Baseball Association and the competing, finally, OHBL Chicago Cubs. Maybe in the wild card race, tomorrow is a huge day because the Brewers are trying to run away with the division. It's very sad. But you guys have a fantastic night. And I'll see you guys Thursday, hopefully. If not, I'll be on this channel next week. Bye, guys.